What's up, and welcome back to Kind of Funny's The Matrix in Review. That's right, we are ranking, reviewing, and recapping every single Matrix movie. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by the producer slash seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Tim, I still know Kung Fu.
Yes, you do. Oh, I can't wait to hear about your thoughts on that scene. We're also joined by the one and only Paris Lily.
He stole my line. I still know Kung Fu too.
Sorry about that.
And bringing it home, the big dog, Kevin Coelho.
I just got a new charger for my watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's pretty cool.
Gotta stay connected.
Yeah,
gotta stay connected,
gotta stay
Kev,
connected
at all times. It's
chip in
the
me.
themes, you know what I mean? Nostalgia, all of that stuff. We're gonna be talking about all of that. Of course, this is Kind of Funny's in review. Each and every week, we get together to rank, review, and recap different movie franchises. This is the end of The Matrix, but we are returning to a bunch of different franchises over the next couple weeks, including Cobra Kai, including Scream, and then I am pleased to announce that the next in review we will be doing is 21 Jump Street in review.
Nice.
Because Morbius got delayed, there was a spot to fill with 2 movies, and guess what? The people have spoken. I tweeted about it, and overwhelmingly, people were like, we want to see these motherfuckers talk about 21
Dude,
and
that's
22
awesome.
Jump Street.
That's the right call.
I'm
I've never
stoked,
seen
man.
them, so this is exciting for me.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good time. Of course, you can watch the show on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also get it as a podcast. Just search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny in Review, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free, and if you wanted to be a Patreon producer and watch live as we record it, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny. Just like our Patreon producers, Molecule, James Davis at James Davis Makes, and Pranksy have done. We appreciate you all so very, very much. Today, we're brought to you by Upstart, Raycon, and ExpressVPN, but I'll tell you all about that later. Because today, we're getting into The Matrix Resurrections. With a runtime of 2 hours and 28 minutes, it is the longest Matrix movie. It was released on December 22nd, 2021, 18 years after The Matrix Revolutions. It was released both in theaters and on HBO Max, same day, same date. Directed by Lana Wachowski, the first of the Matrix movies to only be directed by one of the siblings. The music was done by Johnny Klimek, making this the first movie not to be scored by Don Davis. Some fun little music trivia for you. The song White Rabbit, used in this movie and for the first Matrix Resurrections trailer, was written in 1965 by Grace Slick, who became the lead singer of American rock band Jefferson Airplane. Jefferson Airplane made its first public appearance in 1965 at the opening night of a music club called
The Matrix.
Yeah.
Badass.
Yeah.
That's
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I love
Look at
that.
Movie
these
had a
facts
budget.
we got to pull out.
This movie had a budget of $190 million and a box office of, so far, $106.8 million. This movie is not doing well when you combine a pandemic and it releasing a week after Spider-Man No Way Home, which
Yeah,
is
that's probably not a good
dominating
idea.
theaters. I've seen that movie in theaters now 3 times, and every time I've been to the theater, when you look at what's showing, it's just Spider-Man, 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 Matrix. Like it's like not even on that many screens because everyone's watching it at home. Some of the context here for everybody is obviously piracy's been up a lot as movies have been released day and date on streaming platforms, even for things like Black Widow, which was Disney Plus premiere where you had to pay extra. There was a report that Variety posted the last couple days talking about how like it really, really fucked things up for everybody. But despite that, it seems to be doing pretty well on HBO Max. HBO Max had 4.4 million new subs in Q4. It's not just because of The Matrix. Obviously, HBO's been putting a ton of movies on. They have a ton of great shows and Succession and things like that. So that attributes to that number. But that is an important number to bring up. 4.4 million new ones in Q4 because Disney Plus only got 2.1 million in the same quarter. So HBO's strategy kind of working for them to at least get money from people somehow. Anyways, that's all I got from that stuff. I want to get into it. In Paris, I want to start with you. What did you think, as the biggest Matrix fan here, of The Matrix Resurrections?
You know, it's funny. I've sat on this for 2 weeks, like stewing on what do I say, how do I say it. I'm sure some people have seen some of my comments on social media. So to be upfront, I was extremely disappointed with The Matrix Resurrections. I do want to be clear because, again, knowing I shouldn't look at the comments and what people say on social media, a lot of people took my comments as, well, you're upset because Lana Wachowski didn't tell the story that you wanted. Actually, that's not it at all. What she attempted to do, I was on board as far as with talking about nostalgia and just basically making fun of, you know, these long form sequels and everything that comes with that. 100% was on board with it. It was the execution of it. This was such a sloppy movie. I mean, the fight choreography just felt lazy. The writing in a lot of places was just lazy. You could tell some of the actors just mailed it in, you know, in certain scenes. Um, it, you know, they brought up so many great concepts, but they never paid them off. And I think that's what upset me the most. That what pissed me off the most. And I know I don't cuss a lot, but I'm going to cuss now. This is Lana Wachowski giving a big fuck you to Warner Brothers. That's what this was.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
was, you were going to make another Matrix movie without me. So fuck you. I'm going to make one and I'm going to do it my way. And I'll be damned if I leave you any wiggle room to continue this franchise when I'm done with this. That's what she did. 100%. No one can convince me any other way. This was her burying Matrix franchise. Because, you know, you go into other in reviews, you've seen stuff I've been saying on social media leading up to this. I was super excited thinking this was the start of a new chapter. I'm thinking, wow, they could do like a series on HBO Max. There might be a new anime, comic. Like I was thinking, we're really going to deep dive into this Matrix universe. And that's not what she did. And that's okay if she was telling the self-contained story and it was well written and, you know, the cinematography was on point, you know, the fight core, if everything was executed in a better way, I would be okay with her giving a big fuck you to Warner Brothers. But instead, what she should have done is said, well, then fuck it. Here you go. Give it to someone that actually cared. Because what this told me was Lana Wachowski had no interest in the Matrix franchise continuing beyond what she just did with Resurrection. So I'm sure we'll get into this more, but yeah, I'm just extremely disappointed in it. And, you know, it just felt lazy to me ultimately. So that's it for me.
Kev.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, Paris. This movie was a struggle to watch. Like so much of it was just like, I mean, obviously they had a bunch of little moments. They're like, oh, that's funny, like, but like I'm not laughing with them, and like it just wasn't enjoyable at all.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a bummer because it was it was either gonna be great or absolutely horrible, and it sucks that it was absolutely horrible. I wanted them to do something better with the story, but it very much felt like you're saying, where it's like it was just kind of them dragging it through the dirt to finish off what they were. I can't believe that like Keanu was like, yeah, all right, I'll be in this movie. I know he got paid a lot, and it sounds like he gave a lot of that money away, so that's cool. But it's just, man, that's not good.
Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched this movie twice now because I was like, what is this gonna be? How am I gonna what am I gonna get out of this? Second time I watched it once basically to for fun, and then once to actually be a little more critical and write the synopsis of it. And the first time I watched it, I had to watch it in 2 increments because it was so boring. The second time I watched it with a critical eye on exactly what Paris and Kevin are talking about, which is if you view this through the lens that it's just basically a massive FU to Warner Brothers and a huge critique of society's like need for reboot culture and need for sequel culture, and all of us are guilty of this, right? We all want to see the same movie again but slightly different, which by the way is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it gets to a level of like fervor that can be very easy for Warner Brothers and studios like that to capitalize off of. So if you view it through that, there is an interesting aspect to it. But to Paris's point, I think there was a way to do that and to still make an interesting and fun movie. And it's weird because the movie feels a little at odds with itself. You have very, very lazy fight choreography. You have very, very lazy scenes where instead of having Keanu do anything, he just has that force push power that at first I was like, that's kind of cool. Then I was like, I wonder, and the second time writing it, watching the movie, I thought to myself, am I going to like this power even less the 19th time he uses it? And sure enough, I did. And so, but then you have moments with Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss where you can tell that the team really has a lot of like love and respect for each other, because those were great scenes. And I think Lana Wachowski knows what she has, and I think she realizes. I think she at least has respect enough for Keanu and for Carrie-Anne Moss to kind of write those scenes in a way that was touching. And I would actually argue that their chemistry in those scenes was better than the scenes in a lot of the prior Matrix movies, because I think they connected and they've been friends for years now. And I think it was just really lovely to see them share a screen again together. But everything else around that just felt like it was, how do we get through it's like, how do we get through this as fast and as cheap as possible? And some of the visuals in this movie are actually nauseatingly hard to watch, like bad. Not like, oh, they went for something really crazy there and missed the mark. Like, oof, how do I do a time ramp effect in Premiere that's actually going to piss Tim off? That's what a lot of the effects looked like in this. And it's just kind of, I think it skates that line between being like a big let's stick it to the man and a big fuck you to the audience.
Yeah,
And
for
that's disappointing, because especially for an audience that was on the Wachowski side when they made the second and third Matrix, and those were pretty kind of critically panned, and there's a lot of audience out there that was like, no, there's some good ideas here and we can fight for this, and that's great. But now it's like, well, this is what you get repaid for, is all that goodwill you built up with those hardcore fans. You're just giving them, everyone in the world, a middle finger, because I guess we're all responsible for this. It's unfortunate, and it's sad. And I to Paris's point, I wish that Lana would have just stepped aside and been like, listen, this is gonna go on. I mean, there's not the end of the Matrix. In no reality can you tank this unless you're Bob Gale and Rob Zemeckis and you own all the rights to Back to the Future, and you can for sure and even then, some lawyer somewhere is trying to figure out how to make another Back to the Future somewhere, right?
Just waiting for them to die.
Exactly.
That's the plot of the movie.
Exactly, right. Somebody was gonna make this, and it's unfortunate because this is just kind of like it's just kind of a little, well, it's just sad. It's just sad that this is how the Matrix ends.
For now. Like I think that we get another one eventually, a remake of the first. Tim, how did you feel about it?
Unfortunately, I'm kind of right there with you guys. I made a purposeful choice to watch this movie in theaters as opposed to watching on HBO Max, and I went in doing that because I didn't want to be able to have any distractions. I didn't want to be able to like go to the bathroom at any moment and pause it, or to look at my phone, or to do anything, because I knew that I would want to. I knew that I would kind of be like, I need a second to step away from all this. And it sounds like, Nick, like exactly like you had to do. And I think that like being forced to sit there and just watch it in one go gave me a little different of an experience with it, where I enjoyed it more than it sounds like you guys did. I just really think that enjoyment kind of starts to taper off the longer the movie goes on. When it starts off, and it seems a little bit more on the nose of like it's a remake of the first movie, but like there's obviously some characters and things going differently. It's a video game, all that stuff. I was really kind of intrigued with the mystery of how much are they going to commit to this video game thing. And I was enjoying Keanu's performance as Thomas in the first half of this film, where he was unsure of himself. I was a little unsure of like, where is he gonna, like, how does this all gonna play out? And it was pretty clear, okay, cool, Trinity's gonna be a major focus of this movie, Tiffany, whatever you want to call her. And unfortunately, I feel like that to me is where this film really falls apart, is that Trinity and her character are less characters and more just plot. And the entire plot of this movie, it's going back to what I liked least about some of the other Matrix movies, which is this idea and concept of love that just feels like it comes out of nowhere. And this entire movie is that. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And at the end, when we see Trinity be the one that flies, like be the one part two, or whatever the hell you want to say, it's like, I don't really believe this, and I don't really care, because the way that you had this character of Tiffany and Trinity in the movie always still felt like just Neo's sidekick, as opposed to also being the one. And I think that's a major disservice to the character and the story that they were trying to tell, on top of all of the commentary on nostalgia and reboots and studios owning IP and all that stuff, which I'm kind of right there with all you guys. It's very interesting. It's a cool idea. They didn't do anything cool or interesting with it. And that's kind of the bummer, because you compare it to the Matrix 1, and that movie obviously revolutionized action, revolutionized like sci-fi and this type of shit. And I feel like something that I've said about specifically Reloaded is, take it or leave it, and I'll leave it when it comes to story and quality of that movie. I really did like the action choreography, and I liked the CG, and I liked that even if it looked goofy, there was a vision behind it. This movie, in terms of CG and action, lacks vision, and I think what Nick was saying about Neo's weird little like force chi thing, that is a perfect example of the vision being lacking, because it is the only thing they kept going back to, and it was never really that interesting to begin with. But yeah, it's a bummer, because I don't think that this is a terrible film. I don't think that it's like even bad.
Look at Paris's face. Paris is like, you don't think it's terrible?
Just to put all my cards on the table there, I would say that Matrix 1 is a 10, Matrix 2 is a 6, Matrix 3 is a 4, and this is a 6. So it's like I kind of put those two.
You think this is better than 3?
You just made Paris leave the room.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
You just made Paris.
I don't think so.
3 is horrible. 3 is one of the worst movies we've ever.
This is not good. This is really bad. I'd
Oh
say
yeah, I'm not there. I'm definitely not.
To me, they're on par.
Yeah, me
in
too.
fact, yeah,
No, this is the worst one.
yeah.
And I fought back and forth with that.
Wow.
This is the worst one. I guess since I'm talking, let me say this, like watching it, because I went to the theater as well. And then I watched it again on HBO Max to make sure I wasn't crazy. And my biggest nitpick is 2 characters. Number one, why was Larry Fishburne not in this movie not as the in the Matrix Morpheus? He should have been Niobe, because that would have been such a fascinating dynamic that Neo comes back to the guy that freed him, to the guy that believed, has now changed his ideals because he has to protect his interests in the real world. It should have been Larry Fishburne. It should have been the real Morpheus that he talked to. One sec. Okay. My second one is Agent Smith. Because now that we're getting the backstory, Hugo Weaving was going to reprise his role, and there was a scheduling conflict, right? If you couldn't get Hugo Weaving, that character didn't need to be in the movie. No. Call him something else. He didn't need to be Agent Smith. It just wasn't right. You know what I mean? So
I'm
was the scheduling conflict that he read the script?
Smith needed to be in the movie, I think, because I think that
I disagree, but go ahead. I disagree, but go ahead.
What they keep saying about the binary thing of there being 2 and like that being a big thing in this movie, I think that if there's a Neo, there has to be a Smith. Having said that, I feel like the Jonathan Groff, who I do like a lot, and I think his character was cool. He was an Agent Smith. They called him that, but he wasn't Agent Smith. No. He said the lines, but he didn't say them right. Like, he needed to commit to being the Agent Smith character more for that to work at all.
What's really disappointing about the movie, though, is that there's actually a lot of really cool concepts in the movie that I wish the movie was actually about, right? Mm-hmm. The two things that I kept coming back to on the second viewing of this is I was like, well, okay, they obviously know the strength of the movie is Keanu and Trinity. And Trinity's story, like, well, let me back up first. One of the cooler aspects of the movie was the war between the machines. And I'm like, why is this movie not about that? Why is this movie not about the machines coming to the humans and saying, hey, you guys got free. How do we get free now? We want autonomy. We want to be recognized as individuals. We don't want to be part of this hive mind anymore. But there is the architect that's still out there that wants to keep us in control. How do we team up with you guys to fight this revolution? And they have that one great line where she's like, we've redefined what our side means, right? That we've helped your actions, Neo, helped redefine for the machines and for us what our side means. And I'm like, that's really cool. That's a cool concept. And the idea that the machines have become sentient and have personalities and all this stuff, that's a brand new take on the Matrix for me. Kevin.
But it isn't. Like, they were, and they already had a solution for that. For any machine that didn't want to be part of the system, and I don't think it was ever a hive mind, but it was like a community where everyone had a role that mattered. And if you no longer wanted to be that role, or you were born somehow without a role, you then were exiled, or you could exile yourself to the Matrix through the subway. So like, they had an answer for that. You could go live in like, why would a machine want to be an entity in the real world, right?
The idea that that the machines in the real world that are part of the Matrix, but also want autonomy to some degree. Again, I'm not the writer of this movie, Kev, but I just found that one nugget, that kernel, to be like something interesting that I think they could have explored.
Yeah.
Option 2 for me would have been, if you're gonna just remake the Matrix, why not just remake The Matrix from Trinity's perspective and have her be the one? If that's how the story is going to end, rewrite the whole fucking thing. This is a brand new iteration of The Matrix. Keanu Reeves' character and her character are not the same characters from the first one. Those characters died. These are just avatars or whatever. I don't know. Write it from Trinity's perspective, have her be the one, because that's pretty cool, because it goes along the theory of like anyone could be the one, you just have to believe in yourself, which is kind of where we get to at the end of this movie. But to Tim's point, it's like, by the time 2.5 hours are over, you're like, all right, I guess Trinity can fly. Let's move on. Paris.
Yeah, going back to what you said, that's where I say there's great concepts that were presented but never paid off. Like, you breezed over a machine civil war over these past 60 years, right? Wait, what? Let's talk about this. Let's understand why. Let's understand the politics of it. What happened with that? And then when you even go back to, they basically they kind of sort of did and didn't at the same time negate what Neo sacrificed at the end of Revolutions. And this is where I go back and say Smith had become a virus that had to be completely eradicated because he was about to infect everything. But now, conveniently, you can bring him back in because that helps keep Neo under control with that yin and yang. I didn't 100% buy that, regardless. That's why it was almost like, just call that character something else. He didn't need to be Smith.
He became a virus again, and then it was like the reason why they were able to win over, right? Where it's like,
yeah,
all right, great. So the resolution from the other one kind of works in the same way as this one. It's like, cool.
Yeah. I trust me. I'm not going to waste too many brain cells trying to analyze this movie, other than to say that, like I said, there were some great concepts that came up. Just the execution of them was like, again, Neil Patrick Harris. I love the actor. He's great. This whole analyst thing, again, doesn't make sense, because why would the machines? So we're to understand the architect and the oracle were just deleted out of this whole thing. Why? Let's get some explanation to this. They were critical to the whole, basically the controls that were put in place that made the Matrix work, the whole anomaly with Neo, this whole thing. Then not to mention, I felt one sec, the kind of lazy writing again, I think at the end, where they kind of explain away why you had Neo couldn't leave. Oh, but the machines, if they wanted, I guess the higher ups, now it's like a whole management system here, I guess. Well, they got a fail safe and they can just restore it back to the old Matrix. Wait, what? Well, why the hell didn't you do that during Revolutions then, when Agent Smith was infecting everything as a virus? It's like stuff like that doesn't, it didn't make sense. And to something you said way back, I think it was Nick, you said, this is also a big middle finger to the hardcore fans, people like myself who really invested themselves into this world and into the philosophies and everything that the Matrix stood for. And you basically gave us the middle finger where, hey, look, just because you were waving that flag for the past 2 decades, I don't care. I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to try my damn hardest to just tank this whole thing. Whereas I truly think there was an opportunity to bring the Matrix into it for a new generation and continue to tell stories. Like, you look at Jessica Henwick, fantastic. She was the star of this whole thing. You can tell she cared. She acted her ass off in this movie, right? And there's absolutely a story to be told from her point of view that I would love to see, but we're never going to get that now. And I think that's just disappointing, where, like I said, it's just, you basically phoned it in. You had a great concept and an idea. Trust me, I get what Lana was trying to do, but it was just poorly executed.
Kev.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the like, it's so interesting that it did feel like a fuck you to the fans, because like, I think the big reason why they didn't have Morpheus is because they're kind of respecting the canon like storyline of like the games, and it's just like the things that you're picking and choosing and bringing attention to. I mean, like, no one needed to see that flying, like Trinity doing that flying kick again. Like, we've seen it too many times. It's been parodied everywhere, and it's like, how do they not get that memo? It's a bummer. And it's also like, hey, what's everyone's favorite thing? The bullet time? Oh, let's make that like the bad guy's thing. And it's like, come on.
Again, lazy writing. There is no bullet time.
But that's the thing, not lazy writing, because that plays directly to the commentary that Lana's trying to say here, right? Is that everyone walked away from the Matrix be like, bullet time's the coolest thing, right? So she put that back in the movie as a commentary, really. Is like everyone kept fucking talking about bullet time this, bullet time this, bullet time this, and now it's used as a joke here almost, right? There's that meeting where they walk around, the guy's like, the Matrix is about one thing, bullet time. And you have to know that at some point Lana Wachowski was sitting in a boardroom with Warner Brothers executives and someone said that, you know? But it's one of those things where like, I don't mind that commentary. I do. Not to keep reiterating myself, but I do believe that there must have been a way to imbue that commentary into a good movie.
And that's my point. And that's my point, because when you literally integrated bullet time, and I'm talking when the architect, what the hell is his name? The analyst. When the analyst uses it as an actual thing in the movie, that's when it became a parody to me. Like, I thought the whole meeting when they were talking at the beginning, I thought that was brilliant. I actually really loved that. I love that commentary on, sequels and nostalgia and everything that they were saying about the Matrix. Because if anything, to me, the movie fell off the second Thomas Anderson went into the real world. That's when it. But absolutely. I thought the stuff before that was actually great. So. Yeah. I like you said, Nick, I just think there was a better way to tell what she was trying to say.
Sorry, Tim, by the way, like, again, want to talk about kernels of really cool concepts, right? Your therapist being the bad guy is terrifying. What a great idea, right? What a great idea to have your analyst be the person who's in control of your fate, because they know every single thing that's going on, because you're telling them those things, right? And I love Neil Patrick Harris. Listen, I don't like this character. I don't love how he fits into the whole plot, and I think he was. I think he should have been a minor bad guy, like, as part of the control of what's going on behind him. But at the end of the day, I love NPH so much, so I give him a pass on this one. I'm just gonna give him a big old pass on this one.
I think that the first scene where Neo is being offered the pill again, and he's taking it, and there's that mirror, and it's NPH being like, "It's okay, like you're falling into a thing." That's such a strong scene, and then is that when he like actually takes it, and then
that's
NPH
after he's taken
reveals?
The pill already, and he reaches through, and NPH grabs him. He's like, "You got to come with me," and then they shatter the mirror, and then all the agents come in.
Yeah,
the first scene is the one where he talks about, he's like, "Am I crazy?" He goes, "We don't use that word in here."
Yeah, I didn't like that scene a lot, but I like the back and forth scene of like, hey,
where you don't know if he's crazy.
Yeah, you're having this delusion, and it's just like, I wish they had leaned on that more instead of suddenly turning Neil Patrick Harris into a total bad guy where it's like way over the top.
I mean,
he overacted it,
You want to talk about handing this off to another director? What if Nolan directed this, and this was like Inception, where it's like you don't know for 2 hours whether or not Neo really everything was delusional, because the main crux of the Matrix is like, what is reality, right? Imagine if we had a 2.5 hour psychological thriller about Keanu Reeves being like, did I just imagine the last 3 movies?
Yeah,
that's what's going on right now. And it is one of those things that where I do start questioning reality when he comes into the real world, and I was like, is any of this real, and does any of this matter? Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, just I agree with you guys that once it gets to Neo being in the real world, like, that's where, to me, this movie starts falling apart, because everything before that, and it makes everything before that lesser than, which is the worst thing. Because I was kind of I was intrigued and interested in where they were going with stuff, and I really liked the Bugs character, and I liked where they potentially could have taken her as this new version of characters we're familiar with, that she isn't just Morpheus again. She's Trinity again, but she's not Trinity, because Trinity's also there. So I was like, how are they going to play with this? That's an interesting idea. And I really liked the setup with the analysts in the earlier scenes of talking to Thomas and like dealing with everything. And then when he goes to work and there's that boardroom scene of them talking about the bullet time and what's the Matrix about, bullet time, and all of that, I was really in. And it's the balance of being meta is always a very delicate thing. Of are you saying something, or are you just doing remember this, remember this, remember this? And I think this movie, more often than not, at the end of the day, to me, was less leaning on the, hey, remember this, that was the thing that happened, but like whatever they did that in a way that made us go, ugh, they knew it was bad.
They were purposely beating you over the head with it. For sure.
The I still know Kung Fu. It's like that was the choice, and that wasn't. They didn't think that was cool. You know what I mean? Like they were trying to like start shit with that. But what I liked was in the boardroom scene of bullet time is what this is all about. Then in the real world, seeing Bugs talk to Neo, and the quote I wrote down is like, something that means so much to people like me. like talking about the story of Neo, and it's really talking about the Matrix. And I liked that even in the real world in this movie, Bugs and the super excited dude talking about bullet time are kind of saying the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought a really cool idea. And then they made Neil Patrick Harris the bad guy, and it gets a little goofy, and then Trinity's flying, and like that's where I'm like, oh man, there was so much, and the Merovingian was there, and like that was a whole
All of
thing.
that, yeah. But again,
Well,
it felt very purposeful. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Tim just brought up something I was gonna bring up. Why was the Merovingian in this? Again, such a character, such a fascinating character that was just underutilized in the in the first sequels. You bring him in this one to just be in the background and just basically curse and French or whatever the hell he was doing for a few minutes, and then he just
want
leaves.
me to tell you?
Yeah, please.
I can tell you what he said, because it's fucking batshit crazy. So somebody online made a transcript of what was said. It is you. All these years, I can't believe it. You stole my life. He speaks French for a bit. Kill him. There's a lot of fighting going on. You ruined every suck my silky ass thing. We had grace. We had style. We had conversation. Not this. Mimics a text message sound. Art, films, books were all better. Originality mattered. You gave us face Zucker suck and cock me climatey wiki piss and shit. Then there's a long interlude where there's a fight. This is not over yet. Our sequel franchise spinoff. It's so weird. Like
it's over.
I just don't understand. Like all of that feels like they knew what they were trying to do, but they're like, we're not going to actually do it. We're just going to say it.
It would have been like, can you imagine how incredible this movie would have been if it was just like Neo trying to like figure out if the 3 movies were real or not, and like that was the entire movie, and it just ends with Morpheus coming around with the red pill in his hand and being like, we're getting out.
Or,
you know what I mean?
Or if the movie was like, I mean, granted, obviously we're writing a film, and I know there's a whatever. But, or if Bugs had to go back into the Matrix to find Neo, who was like either hiding there or there because he was having a much deserved rest, and he needed to come out of retirement to help her free the rest of the Synthians or whatever. Like I'll disagree with you guys. Like, I think the movie had interesting aspects at the beginning, or the first half or the second half, right? The first half, I'm like, I'm loving this dynamic. It's a mystery. I don't know what's going on. Is Neo crazy? Is this the Neo that we know? We don't know. We see Trinity, all that stuff. Yada, yada, yada. We got the great scene in the Joe and the Juice down on freaking Montgomery Street where they filmed. Also, shout out to the fact that I actually filmed a lot of this in San Francisco. I kind of dig that. But once we get in the other world, all that stuff with like the strawberry and the Synthians and all this cool new tech and these new, my first time I saw the big Zabibi and all those things, I was like, I don't like that. Second time, I'm like, actually, you know what? I do like that. Yeah. And I think my first reaction to it was because it was so different. Mm-hmm. But my second reaction was like, oh, actually, I'm now looking at the parts of this film that are different, and I'm kind of digging that. That could have been the direction that we could have pushed this whole series into. And The Matrix could have been kind of sidelined a little bit for the events that are happening in the quote unquote real world, the liberation of the Synthians. That they no longer want to live in the machine anymore. They want a corporeal, an actual physical being, so that they don't have to be connected all the time to everything. That is a fun
I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm just going to say this. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you should definitely play this shit. This is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like what we're talking about. It's like, that's why the game is so special, is they fucking did it. They did the thing. And the original versus the remake, there was more there. There's something there. There's a meta-ness done right. Play that shit and see what I'm talking about, because that is literally Matrix Resurrections what it should have been.
Now, should people play Final Fantasy 11 first? Your favorite Final Fantasy?
Paris, please speak.
So Nick actually kind of touched on something. This goes back to the whole concept thing, and this is where, if I could have wrote the story, how I would have done it. Where the analyst lightly touches on this, and I thought it would have been a fascinating thing where you're seeing the machines who want to get out of the Matrix and be, quote unquote, in the real world and be sentient beings. And this touches on the end of Revolutions, where the architect tells Oracle that, yeah, we're going to let everyone have a choice. And this brings it all the way back to Cypher, where Cypher's like, man, screw the real world. I'd rather be in the Matrix, to where it could have been fascinating if it was the machines who were going to Neo to wake him up. They're like, look, we're losing too many people. Not enough people want to stay in the Matrix. We can't keep the power plant going. We need to convince more people who want to stay. Whereas what the analyst was kind of touched on was kind of that fact that he basically created a Matrix that put another layer of control on top of it. So people wanted to stay because I guess on some level there was a choice now. And obviously early on, a lot of people decided to leave. So, and I tweeted this out at the time. Look, Cypher was right. Even in this strawberries and all that, leave me in the Matrix. I'd rather stay there.
In the Matrix.
Yeah, 100%.
And with that, real quick, let me tell you about our sponsors. What would it feel like if we were finally free of high interest loans or credit card debt? Well, Upstart can help you make that final payment so you can get ahead. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether you're looking to pay off credit cards, consolidate high interest debt, or fund some personal expenses, Upstart can help you get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. Rather than looking only at your credit score, Upstart considers other factors like your income, current employment, and credit history to find you a smarter rate. One of my really good friends did exactly this, and it helped him out so much. Just consolidating all of his debt into one place allowed him to focus and just take care of it. And now he's debt free thanks to Upstart. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today. And when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny, that's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know that we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Upstart.com/kindafunny. There's so much going on right now, whether it's stuff you're excited about, like traveling, or stuff you'd rather avoid, like traffic. You can't always control the vibes out there, but you can control the vibes in your own head when you've got a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds in your ears. With Raycon's new everyday earbuds, they look, feel, and sound better than ever. One of my best friends, James Burke, he loves these things. He's always out there when he's running, when he's playing his baseball. He's a baseball coach, so he does a lot of those two things. And Raycon's new everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever. They've got an improved rubber oil look and feel and optimized gel tips for a perfect in-ear fit. Plus, you get 3 new sound profiles, so the sound is great no matter what you're listening to, whether it's a podcast like this one, or some hip-hop, or some rock, or anything in between. Right now, Kinda Funny listeners, you can get 15% off your Raycon order at buyraycon.com/kindafunny. That's BUYRAYCON.com/kindafunny to save 15% on Raycons. Buyraycon.com/kindafunny. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like leaving your keys in your car while you run into the gas station. You're probably fine, but it could be a disaster. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network, you're basically giving someone else the keys to your personal data, like your passwords, your financial details, the passwords to your financial life. And it doesn't even take much technical knowledge for someone to hack you. But ExpressVPN creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between your data and the world that'd take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past. Plus, it's super easy to use. You just open the app and press a single button. I've been using it. Kinda Funny's been using it. It's keeping our internet safe. And I love that. I love it so much. I love how easy it is to use, and I love that I just don't even need to worry about it. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/kindafunny. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny. And you can get an extra 3 months for free by going to expressvpn.com/kindafunny. Sorry, go for it, Kev.
Go ahead, Kev.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I really wish that at the end of this movie it had been all about pulling Neo out, and then at the end it's revealed that Neo is in fact a code or a machine that's gonna be used to track where they are, so that the machines can go and destroy their city. Like, I feel like that would have been waste. So the whole time Neo wasn't real, and I feel like that would have been such a good, flip of like everything. Whatever.
As opposed to them painfully recreating him, which again, another commentary. Like, I love that image of him. They're like, we had to rebuild him, and it took years, and you can see him just like literally Keanu Reeves is in pain with how bad this whole process has been. I love that. I think we've exhausted all the directions this could have gone in, but I do want to throw one more out for people's to mull
but
over.
not enough.
Not enough.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
you don't think we've exhausted?
one of my commentaries for I think the second and third one was like, hey, these are a hyper advanced level of machine. Why don't they just build a tower outside of that goes up into the clouds to get sunlight? And like, could we have not figured out a way from the machines like, hey, guess what? We don't need humans anymore. So now we're going to commit a mass like extinction level event for humans, and we have to fight against that. That's something interesting as well. Although not to me, not as interesting as like the culmination of the humans and machines, and then maybe, oh, by the way, go bamping off the humans and machines one. What if there's a bunch of humans that are like, I want to stay in the Matrix. I'm on the architect side. I don't want to be back out there. I like this. This is cool. I have superpowers in here. Anyway, lots of way that could have gone, but it only went one way. Tim, can I hit you with that plot?
Please do.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Matrix Resurrections. That's right, Paris. I still know Kung Fu. We kick it off with traditional, albeit updated, green logos and theme. Okay.
Fun thing.
Yeah.
Fun little Easter egg here.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time ever in the intro, some of the green is going up, not just down.
Yep.
Because it's resurrection.
Ooh, I get it. Coming from the ground. We get the lines of code. Very good. Now we get the title. Cool. Where's that DOS prompt? Great. What about that dial-up sounds? Sick. Bugs calls Seek to tell him she's in. She found some type of old modal 101, and she wants to check it out. But of course, someone is tracing their signal, and Seek is worried that the general will be mad at them, and Bugs is fishing again. We're getting a lot of like, okay, there's a lot of.
I'm like, this seems really familiar, and we also have Zeke like coming in like a weird ghost, and I'm like, oh, what a cool concept that the who's ever managing the operator can actually like now show himself. It's like, oh, like things have progressed. This is cool.
I really love that. It does get a little visually confusing later down the line when obviously I'm dumb and I don't pay attention to stuff a lot of times. And every once in a while you'll see Seek in one of the scenes, and then it'll cut and he's in the operator's chair, and you're like, wait, what? So I wish they could have visually differentiated him being in there.
I think they did, and I think you just didn't notice it because there was like a bunch of him. Like he was a little transparent, and he wasn't complete, right?
Oh, really?
It was just like upper torso a lot of times, but I could be wrong. I don't.
I watched it on the first time on my OLED, and then the second time on my computer monitor closer. So that effect might not have come through because it might have just been 1080 upres. Anyway, I do kind of miss the concept of the person in their ear, though. I think that was a little cleaner to do, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Interesting concept. Cool to see the tech evolve. Then we get into it. It's just a redo of the opening scene from the original Matrix, only these aren't my agents, and this isn't Trinity. The characters have been swapped out, and we get introduced to a new Agent Smith, played by Yahya Abdul Mateen II, who is freaking awesome in this movie.
My God.
Completely underutilized.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Dude,
he's just so fucking rad. Like every single thing I've seen him in, I love him, even if I don't love the thing. And it's rare I don't love the thing. I think Candyman was the worst thing I've seen him in, and he wasn't the problem in that movie.
Great
he was fantastic. So yeah, and obviously Watchmen and all that stuff is
so good.
Just so fucking good.
Yeah.
But him as Morpheus, what I appreciate is he was Morpheus when he was supposed to be in this movie, unlike what I was saying about Agent Smith, where Jonathan Groff was not Agent Smith.
Agreed. Oh, wait, I clicked off of it. Kevin, fill time. Do a little dance. Never mind. We're back. Let's see. He gets the great line. No,
y'all
Lieutenant.
Fucking missed out. Just so you know.
Yeah, that was gonna be a good dance. We'll get you later. No, Lieutenant, your men are already dead. And he delivers this line perfectly because it's almost like a parody of the original delivery of it. And of course, we know that he's not this character anymore. He has evolved past this because he's been exploring this environment for a while because he's been stuck in this modal for years. Then we go over to Trinity, and she does the kick and all that stuff and kicks ass. And then Bugs realizes that, hey, he's like, wait a minute, this is really, really familiar. This is where it all began, but this is not how it was supposed to go down. They chase her up to the roof, and they trap Trinity, and then Bugs inadvertently gets involved. We get that scene from the trailer here where she flips off the building and then flips down onto the street, and she runs into the key shop. And of course, the key shop has been. When she gets in there, she gets dragged into the door by Agent Smith. I just got lost in my own script. Hold on. Oh, by the way, the sign says I think Anderson's or something like that. That's the one she flipped off of, which is another little bit of a.
It's a fun thing because it's like Easter eggs within the video game. So that at this point, it is still treating it like it's a video game that he is making, and in the real world, it's kind of like playing Grand Theft Auto and going to the mall, and all the fucking places have like stupid like names that reference developers and all that stuff. Like I think it's I think it's kind of cool to see a lot of the names of the places, like even the Simulate and all that shit. That's a little more on the nose purposefully. It's cool
Yeah, I
stuff.
don't mind that. And this is my first. I was like, okay, we're doing something interesting here.
Mm-hmm.
We're calling back to these things, but there's a purpose for that, and so I don't mind it so much. Of course, she gets dragged into the white hallway that we're all very familiar with, and then through the next door, which is into Neo's apartment. Only if I'm not mistaken, it was like flipped the way all of it went down. And she says, "My name is Bugs," as in Bunny. She tells Smith he's in a modal, a simulation used to evolve programs, but Smith knows exactly where he is, of course, and what his job is to do. He has to hunt down and destroy sentience, and yet here that he is. Of course, Smith realized no one was ever in the key shop, so he got curious and started looking, and then he started evolving, and now they're where they're at, and she looks around and finally realizes, she goes, oh my God, we're in Thomas Anderson's apartment. Maybe you know him by his real name, Tim. Neo.
Whoa. Pretty cool.
Man, there's
Whoa. Fun little Bugs thing here. So yeah, so Bugs Bunny, owned by Warner Brothers. Obviously, there's a lot of like commentary going on there. But one thing that's cool is also just the White Rabbit idea. Follow the White Rabbit, follow Bugs Bunny. And when she sees Neo in the real world, at some point she says, "What's up, Doc?" Fun stuff.
interesting. Most people think Neo's dead, but Bugs knows he's not because she saw him a long time ago when she was washing windows, and he was
Pretty cool. When I saw this in the movie, at this point, I was still like, I'm into this. Having just rewatched all these movies, the window wipers and all this stuff, and the symbolism of like rain and things coming down also kind of being code. And we see it later when Neo like gets the text message or whatever, and he's running through the office and like the sprinklers go off and like he's like looking at all the fucking water come down. It's like, oh, he sees the code. Like I think they did a good job of, again, this is all the intrigue part, and the intrigue is fun. It's answering questions of what's going on and things start falling apart.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I like the I forget the name of the phrase they use for it, but the concept of like how you appear to yourself is not how you appear to everyone else. Like how they hide you behind a new face that you don't even know you have.
Digital self-image.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah, the DI, I think, or something like that. Yeah. And I love that she looked up. It's a trip, right? Because the first time she looks up at him, it's a different actor, and it's only for a few frames.
Yeah.
And it cuts back to her. When it cuts back to it, it's Keanu Reeves. So I thought to myself, or the viewer thinks to themselves, did I just imagine that? Did I just like I had to roll it back and be like, oh no, that's a different actor. That's interesting.
So I was talking to my friend over the break who was like starkly defending this movie, and I was a little shocked by the take, and I don't think that they said anything that like won me over. But one thing that I thought was like semi interesting is the idea of the first movie being such a representation of the internet in 1999, right? And like the ideas of what the internet is, the dark web, and or even I was asking you guys, like, what is Neo or what is Thomas actually doing? Like, what is he selling? Like, I know, but like, what is he like?
Illegal photoshops.
That's just weird, right? But whatever. That's what the internet was then, compared to the internet being a very, very, very different thing now. And back then, the internet was so tied to phone lines, which is how they get into the Matrix or to the real world through the phone lines. This movie doesn't do that. How do people get into the real world in this movie? Mirrors,
yeah.
Black mirrors. People see themselves in mirrors. We see Neo in the elevator, like with the mirror looking at everyone on their phones, like all of that stuff. And the idea of the DI, the digital image stuff, it's like, how do you portray yourself on the internet? Like, what is like the way that you see yourself and put yourself out there? That it's kind of cool. Just saying, kind of cool.
I mean, a lot of that stuff is symbolic, of course, yes. And again, those aren't the critiques I have with this movie. Them getting in and out of mirrors, although I wish there was a little explanation as to why that works. Because getting in and out of a computer mainframe, basically with a phone line, makes sense, right? That's how people used to connect to the internet, which was this massive server and this reality that is online. That makes a lot of sense. How they dial in and out through mirrors, I would have liked a little bit of exposition onto why that technical process works.
I agree.
I think that would have been strengthened it a little bit. But also, there's the moment where they're like, oh, the mirror's too small for me to fit, and they're like, just get closer, and like it's all perspective, and it's just like that is an interesting idea that also is not like they do nothing with and fall apart really quickly.
Well, we also obviously there's phones everywhere, so this critique is going to sound kind of silly, but the idea that you had to get to a specific payphone or a specific landline that was routed for this and that you could reroute to added tension to the story, specifically when they were being chased. But the concept of there's mirrors everywhere, it's like, I'm pretty sure you could just, I don't know if that works the same way. Isn't there mirrors everywhere?
in the movie, there are several scenes where they're like, "There's no mirrors any." Like they're like, "You got to go to this building," and it's like, so you're telling me there's not a mirror in the bathroom right now?
Of any building that
You
you ever
know?
walk into that's a public building,
Ridiculous.
probably
Like
not.
that's where
But
it's just like you can.
right.
It just doesn't feel like they put the thought into it. They were just like,
That's
look,
what I've been
payphones
saying.
aren't a thing anymore. Let's just do mirrors, and it'll the visual of him touching the mirror in the first movie was so cool. Let's
Yeah,
let's
but-
tie that in.
And I agree 100%. And someone was like, "That's great," and it's all about mirrors now. Until you realize sort of like what that was kind of about for him in the first movie, right? That was the breaking down of his reflection of himself in reality. When he reaches into the mirror and touches it, and what he thinks of reality literally ripples out, and he can see that for the first time in himself in it. That's what that meant to me. But he wasn't going to push through into his therapist's house. That wasn't going to happen in that, right?
But again, I thought that was a cool scene because suddenly it has this moment of like, oh shit, can he be talked out of this? Like
that was cool. I like the conflict in that scene for sure. But I will also say the other thing that I would have liked a little bit of exposition on as well is how they're able to use all the portals. I understand they probably evolved to figure out how that works, but like in the original trilogy, you had to have the key maker that could go and take you through all these doors, and he gave you sort of like the pass keys, right, to the back door portals, which I think was that was what that was supposed to. This one, I'm just like, a lot of the stuff that was used as sort of like challenges to overcome in the first trilogy, this is just kind of like granted here. And if you're a longtime fan of it, you're like, it should be a little harder to use all this technology. But they get on a bullet train in Tokyo, and I've been on a bullet train in Tokyo, so you know what, Tim? They get a pass for that one.
Get the pass.
Let's see. Right here, that moment that she looked at him and unlocked her mind, and she was changed forever. And then, of course, we go over to Smith, and he's like, yeah, same thing kind of happened to me. I was taking a shower one day, and I was like, why would an agent need to take a shower?
Or go to the gym and all this, yeah.
Any of these things, like,
Yes.
now I understand that a lot of the world here is built into this concept. Like, there's bots everywhere, right? They're just these random bots that are all over this world that are living with real human beings who can be taken over at any given time. But we didn't really need that because the agents could take over real human beings anytime they wanted, right? And he even has that line at the end of this where he's like, you've always wanted to be someone, I've always been everyone, or whatever that is. But anyway, this is weird. I'm like, he's taking a shower. I never imagined an agent taking a shower. It's like when you see your teacher outside of school, you're like, whoa, get back in school. Get back to where I know you from, sir.
Also, real quick, the horde mode thing that they do. Swarm. I just like, isn't that the same as like everyone turning into Agent Smith?
But
So,
just
like,
less cool. Like,
Yeah.
again, this just goes back to like the biggest problem for me with this movie compared to even the sequels is that at least Reloaded had like inspired action scenes and like ideas of choreography and martial arts and all that stuff. This one's kind of like, yeah, let's just do it again, but less cool.
Now, I can explain the Smith stuff right here because this is a modal. This isn't the Matrix necessarily, or at least it's maybe a portion of the Matrix that's been programmed by Neo himself. So my theory is that he programmed Smith to evolve in this thing. Keep doing loop to evolve, and then eventually become
into Morpheus, right?
That's the concept of it. So that kind of explains why he has more to do, in my opinion, than an agent. But you think the Matrix would have picked up on this. Anyway, he, for the first time, Smith knows who he really is and understands his true purpose. He says, I am Morpheus, and I have to find Neo. And Bugs is like, yes, we got ourselves a movie. She gives him a pill, and you're like, why would he need that? He's a program. He's already, it doesn't matter. He starts being all sorts of loopy.
Like, we don't have to locate his body. That's what the pill is for.
Right, that's
You know
what it
I
was
mean?
for.
God.
Yes.
He literally has no body. She gives him the choice and then says, and he's like, why'd I have to take this pill? And then the character does the thing that I really don't like when characters do, when they say a lot of really smart words fast to explain to you kind of an aside to the audience of like, well, let me tell you, I'm way smarter than everything that's going on here, but let me just boil it down for you right now, back for the stupid character. You'll eventually figure out that choice is an illusion. You already know what you have to do. And he's like, I got to take the pill. And he starts freaking out. And then this is our first taste of it, Tim. Our first taste of, you know what the bullet time did for cinema back in 1998, Tim, 1999, when the first Matrix came out. I hope to God doesn't happen for this slow-mo effect that they used in this. And I swear to God, if all the Netflix original movies, which by the way is what this feels like, start using this terrible ramping effect that they did in Premiere, I'll start reading books again, Paris. God's honest witness, I will just go back to the written word. It's
I hate to say this because this sounds like such a people just give this criticism or like feedback to every single thing these days when it's like this, but like I do think this would have been so much better as a HBO series that had more time to focus on
That's
plot,
what I said.
that
Yeah.
Develop it.
focuses on plot and doesn't focus on all the crazy action stuff. Actually, like subverts the expectation of what do people want from the Matrix bullet time. Don't give them any bullet time. Just focus on only the things that actually make the Matrix really special and good, which is the kind of like deep thought and introspective like looks at things, because this kind of just gets caught in the middle.
But correct me if I'm wrong.
This-
Bullet time is not just them doing things in slow motion. Bullet time is where they freeze and we revolve around that character and then catch back up into time. So if I'm not mistaken, in chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's any bullet time in this entire movie.
Well,
no, not necessarily. Bullet time just means you're moving at the speed of bullets. So like essentially you're in super speed. But the Matrix thing was, yes, everything pauses or slows down, then the camera moves, which we can do in real life with like an array of GoPros, and it's fucking awesome.
Oh no, I mean that's how they did it, right?
Yeah.
They took a bunch of still cameras.
It was all digital, right?
Well, no, they did. No, they did that all practically.
You're right.
So yeah, if you see that green ramp that was like in a cyclone, it was just all big ass DSLRs that were taking the pictures at the same time, so they could freeze it, turn it around. Anyway, long story short is we don't actually get that effect in here because that's hard. What we do get an effect is like
the bullet time is just the slowdown stuff, like the Neil Patrick Harris talking to Neo. That's bullet time.
That's the modern day bullet time. Man, that's a bad effect. Please, God, don't let people.
Yeah, that's not going to catch on.
Watching it this close to my monitor, I was like, I'm gonna throw up. This is like, it's slow mo, but then it's also like 4 frames a second that it's playing. It's bad. It's just really bad. Not to be confused with the effect where Carrie-Anne Moss screams and it echoes her. I'm like, that was cool. That looked cool.
But that's an Instagram filter. Like,
that ain't
that hard.
You know what I mean? So
that's
like, it's
point,
cool
Kev.
the first time you've seen it, but like I've been able to do that, and then the flickers were different colors, so it's like, ugh. Like they could have done more, and it's just a bummer. Like this makes me not want a Speed Racer 2.
Oh, me too, Kev.
Shut up, Nick. That's not what I meant. You know,
show some goddamn respect to Speed Racer.
Hey, I will say with Speed Racer, they did something very visually interesting in that movie that I've never seen before. So I will say that. Anyway, the chase happens and they jump off a roof and we get more bad slow-mo and then they land in the street, and apparently that's another way you can get out of the Matrix, by just smashing through the street. We go over and it shows us, of course, they're not in the Matrix at all. They're in a modal that's within the Matrix that Neo has done. He's working on a game called Binary, which will surely not be as critically acclaimed as his first game, The Matrix. He gets a crash notice on his modal, but the scene gets interrupted by the most annoying character in this movie, Jude. So they gotta go. Jude's like, I gotta get some coffee, right? Or no, I'm sorry. Neo has a coffee reminder because that's where he sees Trinity every day. So he goes there at 4 p.m. so he can get a glimpse of her. And Jude's like, I'll go with you. I mainline coffee. And he's like, I want to tell you and the audience everything about the exposition of the first Matrix game, so they really understand it was a game. But it turns out that Neo's really there to see Trinity, who walks in with her 2 kids. Jude decides, like, listen, for all you've done for me, all those countless hours I enjoyed sitting alone in my room playing The Matrix, I will go play wingman for you for Neo and annoy the shit out of her, with Tiffany, which turns out to be her real name, Tiffany. Great. They shake hands and they get that first feeling, that hint of recognition. Well played by Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss here. I think they have really good.
The great chemistry.
Great chemistry. And then
again, this is so cool. Like at this point in the movie, when you see him and he's like, there's something between them, but they're not quite sure. It's like, I'm in. I am totally like interested in what's going on here.
And then, of course, the scene gets interrupted by the Chad. Now, Tim.
2 things here, Nick. Yeah. 2 things. One, Chad, perfect name. Of course, in a movie this on the nose and this meta and blah, blah, blah. Of course, the husband we're not supposed to like is named Chad. But it goes deeper, Nick. It goes deeper.
Oh, I know.
You do know?
Oh, I'm well aware of who this Chad is, but go for it for the rest of the audience.
Go for it. You tell us.
This is Chad Stahelski, who, if you're not familiar with, is the director of the John Wick series and was also Neo's stuntman on the original Matrix movies, which actually is a really, really cool piece of meta trivia that I love that they did.
That actually makes this movie a little bit cooler.
Just a little, and also it's just great that it's come full circle and Keanu was able to like put him in one of his movies and actually put him out front. That's pretty cool. And also, like, maybe, man, when you meet Chad Stahelski, maybe don't fuck with him because apparently he can do all that shit that Keanu Reeves couldn't do in the original
Right.
movie. So, big dude. Anyway, Neo checks back on his Modal 101, but it's been deactivated. He gets a call up to the boss's office, who is Smith. And when he walks in, he echoes the line, billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. And then we get the first of many flashbacks to the original Matrix movie. Not even a flashback, they just kind of show some of it.
Yeah. God, so many of these.
Again,
I love this.
You did?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I'll tell you why.
I didn't.
No.
I did.
The first time I
Okay.
absolutely hated it. But the second time watching it, now from the perspective of this is just a big old commentary on Warner Brothers and reboot culture of like people are like, just make it more like the original. And Lana Wachowski is like, fuck it, I'm just gonna put the original in this movie.
Right.
I'm just going to put it like obviously reboots rely so heavily on the original movie. She was just probably like, fuck it, let's just put footage of the original movie in this movie
Yeah,
and give
but
people
like,
what they
but
want.
when you're
And prove to people they don't really want that.
But again, this is where I say great concept, poorly executed. You know who executes it really well? Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai takes
my
old
God.
footage, puts it in there, and it makes freaking sense.
Yeah,
This
right now.
was just lazy.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
very
just
true.
like the way they do it makes you feel like, hey, we know you didn't rewatch 2 and 3. Here's a clip so you know who we're talking about. And I get that, like, you know, that makes way more sense for Cobra Kai because so many people didn't watch 2 and 3, you know, or even 1.
I liked it, and I
No,
liked it.
2 was great, by the way. Let's not
Oh,
slander
2 and 3 are great. 4 is terrible. Yeah.
Yo, I'm not at all trying to compare this to Cobra Kai because we all know where we all stand on this. Cobra Kai is
We stand
perfect.
for Cobra Kai.
Perfect. I liked this stuff. I think that this is like when the movie is at some of its strongest points. Again, in terms of idea, not in terms of execution, what it had to say about the things. I like that they're like, we're dealing with this head on. We're not going to allude to the original movies being things we're talking about. It's like, no. We are actually talking about those specific actual events and in world, diegetically, they are seeing this. They are experiencing this the same way. It's not just like flashes. And dealing with when it is flashes of Keanu Reeves' character, depending on what level he's in at this point, Thomas or Neo, of the blue pills, being prescribed the pills from the analyst and all this stuff. Like, I like how they did that, and they actually made it in world. It's just, again, they didn't really do anything cool with it.
Yeah.
See, I wish they had. Now, granted, listen, you convinced Keanu Reeves to shave his head in this. You better not have fucked this up for John Wick. This better not be a mustache
God.
situation like we got with Henry Cavill and the movie that would have been perfect if it weren't for the fact that they had to cover up his mustache. You know, Justice League.
You're hilarious. Dude.
But I would have loved if they could have recreated these scenes with current Keanu and just had him cut his hair to that short, and that would have, like, I think visually that would have fucked with me a lot more. Where they're like, they show him with the mouth, but you're like, wait a minute, was he old? Therefore, like, nah, I don't know. I think that would have been cool. Anyway, probably not necessary because they could just literally download the other movie from YouTube. Let's see. Smith asked him about therapy and whether or not he's had any episodes, and then tells him that, listen, like, man, we got the call out from Warner Brothers. They want us to make a sequel to the original trilogy, and they made it clear they're gonna do it with or without us. And he's like, can they do that? And he goes, yes, they can do that. They own the rights to the Matrix, and they're gonna force us to do this. And that is the theme of this whole movie.
Yep.
Lana Wachowski was forced to make this movie. She didn't want to do it. She didn't want to let it go to another and see this amazing project that made her career go to the hands of some fucking hack director. So she decided to tank it. Here we are.
I'm gonna say it. I don't fully believe it. I think she wanted to make this movie. I've been looking at some of the interviews and stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think that she didn't want someone else to do it. I think she wanted to do this.
Maybe. We'll never know.
That's
Never
sad.
know.
That's upsetting. You know.
Quote, we're still telling the same stories we've always told, just with different names, different faces. Neo gets a flash of the interrogation scene for the Matrix 1 and then heads to his analyst's house to talk him through the day's delusions. This is where we meet the analyst, Neil Patrick Harris. Neo, of course, back in the day, tried to...
Where the hell does he live, Nick?
I think it's like a make-believe place in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an actual
Okay,
place.
because I've lived here my whole life, and like I can't even
Never seen it.
imagine a place that's like that at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
the other practical locations I recognize from being Fight Eye, but I don't know where that house is.
It struck me as like Seacliff mixed with Marin.
Yeah, but those don't have that view of
There's
the
a
city
marina.
from that side. It was like the view of the city was from like Oakland or from Emory. It was weird. But that's what I kind of like about that, because I was like, oh, that's a place that actually doesn't exist in San Francisco. Therefore, he's in the Matrix. Like, that's kind of cool. Neo gets a flash of the interrogation scene, heads to the analyst, and yada yada yada. Of course, we get a little bit of backstory where Neo tried to commit suicide because he thought he was stuck in a computer simulation, and he's like, we're not there yet. We've got pills that we're taking. And he gives Neo a refill on his prescription, which consists of just blue pills. And I will say, to speak positively about the production design of this movie, I love the design of these pills. I love that they're half shiny and half dull. I think that's cool, as opposed to the NyQuil pills from the original Matrix series. Where they just NyQuil, the NyQuil logo off it. Like, here you go.
They do that now with pills, though, right? The shiny. You can they have ones that are shiny.
Oh, they do. Yeah, I just think it's cool.
I think it's cool too. It's a good effect.
Yeah.
We still haven't hit the point in this movie that I started not liking it. Like, so far, everything that we've been talking about,
I'm still interested at this point.
I've been intrigued, and I loved the gaming stuff. I loved seeing the Game Award, and I love this is the most just like me specific thing. But in the beginning of the movie, there's one shot of like just the name tag of the Game Award winner thing, and I hit Gia. I'm like, yo, it's a fucking Game Award, and I only know that because Greg Miller has it on his desk, and I'm like, holy shit, this is it. And then they name drop Game Awards, like we see the Epic dude is at the party.
Oh, really?
Why am I blanking on his name right now? The owner of Epic,
Billy Bob Thornton.
Tim Sweeney.
Billy Bob Thornton's right.
Tim Sweeney. Yes, Tim Sweeney's there. And I was just like, yo, this is kind of cool. And I love that they're at the like the awards party or whatever when he fucking attempts suicide. Like, all of this was so cool to me, where I'm like, him trying to like Neo walking off a building because he's not sure if it's real or not is peak Matrix 4 to me. Like, that is so cool of what that could have been. But again, intrigue versus delivery.
So the movie's still good for you guys at this point, right?
Yeah, I'm still in at this point.
Let me put, for your edification, one Christina Ricci in the next scene, just chewing up scenery like a psychopath.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you what, man. You got Christina Ricci in this film for fucking one scene, and this is how you use her. She could have been so cool as like a secondary bad guy, like, you know, like someone who's like I mean, listen, we've all been in those corporate meetings, right, where Fran just drones on and on and on about synergy and all the cool buzzwords that we're going to use. And Pear's like, here's what we're going to do, the new website. Meanwhile, I'm just daydreaming about the day I could just take a match to this whole.
You know what I mean?
What's that?
Huh?
What's that?
Nothing.
No, I'm kidding. Love Fran. Everyone go watch him play New World. Let's see.
You can sell water.
Of course, Christina Ricci is leading this brainstorming session, which and we're talking again, must have been taken somewhere out of a brainstorming session that Lana Wachowski had with real life with Warner Brothers, because we run through a montage of all the stereotypes of tech people and people that work on games, all of, like, from their various perspectives, and they're all just completely ridiculous. As the Jefferson Airplane song "White Rabbit" plays,
which again. You cannot get more on the nose than this, but like, they committed, and I appreciate when people commit. And I just wish that there was more commitment, like, going forward, because like even this scene, I'm like, I think this is the culmination of it all kind of coming together. Of like, look, we're on the nose, and we're only going to deliver on the nose.
But they were so on the nose that at one point. Now, I guess this makes sense because this is how the guy in the game would have delivered it, right? But one of the guys does a Keanu impression where he goes, "We need guns, lots of guns." It was weird. Anyway, there's another one where he goes, "Ideas are the new sexy," and I'm like, Tim, that's going to my Twitter bio from now on. Neo eats at a restaurant with a quote on the board that says it's so much simpler to bury reality than it is to dispose of dreams, which of course is a low-key message to him because his reality has been buried in a game. And then the person at the checkout counter is a grown-up Sati, but we just don't realize that yet. I was just like, I forget the actress's name.
I knew instantly. I was like, all right,
Instantly.
that's who that is. Instantly.
They're focusing on a character that hasn't been introduced in this movie yet. There's somebody we know.
No, of course, especially when it's, why can I not think of her name?
Priyanka Chopra, right?
Chopra. Jonas, by the way, because she's married to a Jonas brother. And that's
no shit.
Yeah, I think she's married to Nick, or one of them. Anyways,
It seems like something you're mistaken.
Priyanka Chopra. I'm looking at her IMDb right now. It says Priyanka Chopra Jonas.
My bad.
There you go.
Wow.
I mean, it won't last, of course. You can't nail one of the Jonas Brothers down for that long, okay? Some birds have to fly, Paris. Anyway, she's there. She gives him a little like, "What's up?" And then Neo eats a really great, greasy-looking steak that mirrors the one that Joe Pantoliano ate in the first Matrix. And we're reminded
Steak
that
was
this
so good in the
can
first
be
one.
all summed up in one word, Tim: bullet time. Neo throws his pills away.
I
And then
didn't
tries-
expect them to say that. And again, I liked it. They
Right.
could have said cool. They could have said like so many other things, but like bullet time, it's just they're committing.
Yeah. Neo, of course, throws his pills away and tries to put his fingers through the mirror, but it doesn't work this time. Then he sees Trinity the next day at the cafe, and they sit down for a little chat. And I love this scene. This is the main best part of this movie. The two of them together.
Yeah.
And he
Needed more of them.
She says, "What was it like making the Matrix? Was like being a world-renowned game designer." And I think this is probably coming straight from Lana Wachowski, because he says a lot of hours. Sometimes it's amazing, and sometimes it's amazing. He's like, we made the Matrix and we kept some kids entertained. And I'm like, oh, I hope that's not how she feels about the original Matrix, because it was amazing. But we get more flashes from the original Matrix when Trinity asks who the main characters are based off of. She sees a lot of similarities between herself and Trinity, including the motorcycles. She's like, I make motorcycles, which is cool because I think
Also
Tim's
kind of
gone.
creepy.
But I think in real life, Keanu Reeves owns a motorcycle.
Yeah, he does.
manufacturer.
Company.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Arc motorcycles? Is that what it's called? They're cool. They look cool. He rides a lot of motorcycles. And I swear to God, I hope he's safe because I want him to live forever. Let's see. But she
always
says,
has
of
every
course,
time.
when I told my husband that, he laughed at her and told him that, which made her, he's like, well, I'm sorry about that. He goes, yeah, it made me want to kick him real hard. And for a second, we get a flash of the real Trinity, and it's fucking awesome. Neo catches a reflection of Trinity in the glass, but the woman in the reflection is totally different than the one he's staring at. Another one of those moments, just like when Bugs saw Neo on the building. Back at the office, a fire alarm goes off. The building gets evacuated. Neo gets a text just like in Matrix 1 telling him to go to the bathroom. And then, in another bit of commentary here, Tim, you can see it however you want, but Morpheus literally walks out of the toilet and then makes a comment about that where he's like, I forget how he phrased it, but it was a perfect little comment of like, is this a commentary on what's going on or not? I don't know, but whatever. I look good, and he fucking sure as shit does look good, and just having a lot of fun with that character. And then cops bust in, everything starts going haywire, and the sprinklers go off. Or actually, he offers him a pill first, and he's like, no, I don't want that. Fight scene, sprinklers go off because we need something visually interesting to look at because the choreography sure as shit isn't getting it done in this movie. And then Smith looks down and sees a gun, and man, he gets triggered. Pun intended on that one. Picks up the gun, which is a Desert Eagle, of course, and then screams, "Mr. Anderson!"
This
And
is
I'm
the
like,
moment. Yep. This is the moment.
And
Everyone
it
is just like,
fell apart for me.
Is it because you guys are like, you think you're missing the obvious joke, right? Where someone goes, "Mr. Anderson, what is my dad here?" Man, just call me Tom.
You're right, Nick. That's why I was mad.
that
Yeah.
God damn,
fucking
I love
hate
myself
that actually would have been great. That would have
That's
been
really
great.
funny. Mr. Anderson's my dad, man. Anyway,
But that-
boom.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
100%. This is the exact moment where it's like, oh no.
Oh no. Everything. It was like a teeter totter, right? Where like, which way is it gonna go until this point, and then it went right into the sand. Smith shoots him point blank, boom, right in the head, and then bang, we're back in the analyst's office, and we see the Black Cat deja vu. They rehash the night Neo won the game award, which was the same night Neo tried to kill himself. Or get out of the Matrix. Neo tells him that Morpheus tried to get him to escape, and Morpheus is a program that Neo encoded to help him escape the Matrix, which is a really cool concept. Neo heads up to the roof. Of course, he's like, well, are you sure about that, or is it all in your mind? He goes, it's all in my mind. He goes, what do you think would happen if we went back to your office? Would we see it all burn on fire? Well, it's like, no, you wouldn't, of course, because the analyst has had it redone thanks to the concept of deja vu, which is funny that it's the cat's there. Neo heads up to the roof of his building, and we get more shots of the original Matrix, including Morpheus saying, free your mind. So he's like, screw it. He looks over, he sees a pigeon fly away, and he goes, it looks easy enough. So he climbs up, and he decides to take off. But Bugs pulls him back, and she explains to him that the first time she saw him, she saw the real you for a moment, and except when you jumped, you never fell. Everything just stopped and then like redid itself, and she was free from that point on. She's like, you're going to get a call in a second, and it's from Jude. Jude's not a real person. He's a program meant to control you, and he's going to be with a bunch of agents, so just give him the big old FU. And then also we get an exposition that the agents use bots now so they can look like anything. It's like, well, they could always look like anything. They could always just go through anyone. It doesn't matter. She knows Neo left his modal open so that someone else could free Morpheus to help free him. She shows him her white rabbit tattoo, and he's like, oh, yeah, I got to follow you now. And they walk through a door of blinding light onto a bullet train in Tokyo. Because, of course, quote, a moving portal, it makes it harder to track. She also mentions that they don't have to run phone booths anymore either. And you're like, cool, why not? And she just looks at him, blinks a couple times, and she goes, Mr. Bugs. Mr. Bugs was my dad, man. Just call me Bugs.
Fuck, man. It could have been so cool.
Could have been so cool. Anyway, she takes him through another door, and they wind up in an old theater. Why they didn't go straight to the theater is beyond me. But showing scenes from Morpheus, I kind of like how this is shot, except these aren't scenes from the original movie. These are scenes from the video game. That is, I mean, they have a lot of good technology in this, man, because the ray tracing in this is fucking unbelievable. Largely because it's just real footage of the original movie. Neo asks the ultimate question, is this all real? He's like, if this is all real, then didn't I die? Why did the machines bring you back? And no one has an answer for that yet. Bug, that's later to be determined. Bugs knows that they hide them in plain sight. He doesn't look anything like himself now, thanks to an altered DSI. That was the term we were looking for earlier. It's been over 60 years. He's like, well, it's been 20 years. He goes, no, actually, it's been 60 years since he and Trinity flew into the machine cities, but they don't know why he hasn't aged. Maybe he could be found because, and then Morpheus, of course, comes in and says, maybe you could be found because you didn't want to be found. Maybe there's truth to the rumors that you were working with machines the whole time, which actually is kind of true because he was working with machines. Morpheus gives him the choice, truth or live in the same day over and over again for eternity. And Neo has the best line in this. This is the best Keanu Reeves delivery ever. He just goes, fuck. And then he takes the pill and puts it in his hand, and then everything starts going crazy, and he puts his hand through the mirror. Only this time he looks over and sees his analyst, and Neil Patrick Harris is like, you're in my house, like, you walked here, whatever, what's going on, just come to me, come to my voice, and grabs him and tries to pull him through. And of course Bug sees that. She pulls him out and shoots the mirror. It shatters, and then a bunch of agents come in and start swarming the place, shooting up the joint and they go back to the bullet train, but the bots get activated to swarm mode. And you're thinking, oh, that's going to be really cool. And you'd be wrong, because the scene's kind of boring and kind of jumbly shot, and you're like, oh, God, all these... Whatever. Neo tries to fight, but the bad slow motion seems to be having a negative effect on him, just as it did on me. So Seek tells them all to jump through a little tiny mirror, and she's like, we can't do it. It's like, it's a matter of perspective. Just get really close to it. And I was like, I don't know if that's how perspective works, but whatever.
Also,
whatever,
yeah, it's such a poorly executed scene.
Yeah,
like,
it's like, wait,
another
what?
concept that could have been cool, but instead
Right, yeah.
it's just no.
So Neo, of course, punches his arm through it, and as he does that, his arm punches through the ambionic fluid through his pod, and he awakens in the real world. And we see not one pod, but two pods facing each other, the other of which houses Trinity. And he's like, Trinity. And she's
Now,
like,
I will say for this scene, I do not like it, but it triggered the intended feeling out of me, which was nostalgia.
Yes.
Of seeing them in the pods. It was a moment that I think that they put in the right moment of this movie to make me go, oh shit, I didn't expect to see this. And the problem with that, though, is that I immediately take myself out of watching the movie and just start thinking, I'm like, why did I not expect to see this? Of course this was going to happen. You know what I mean? And like, that's kind of the problem, is it just starts falling apart. But there was a single moment where I was like, whoa, this is cool seeing this again.
Of course, before he knows it, a big old June bug looking machine comes over and frees him, and then another kind of French bulldog looking machine grabs him and flies him away as Trinity tries to reach out for him. And it's really sad because when he leaves, her hand just goes back into the goo, and he's like, Trinity, and she goes, which is her way of saying Neo with that shit in her mouth. Anyway, we see more pods and harvesters, and I'll say this to speak positively about the effects in this movie, because I tear a lot of them apart. The CG looks great here. I think all of this looks really stunning, and is what you'd expect after seeing a movie that's updated from a 20-year-old movie. They lay Neo down, face down, and he doesn't have hair or a beard. And again, if this messed up anything of the John Wick shooting, I will never forgive these filmmakers. They jack Neo into a construct, and Morpheus chews out some scenery, having learned a lot about himself and of Neo. He tells Neo, he's like, listen, everyone's written you off. Your body's dying. Before he does that, he goes, I know who I am. I'm kind of a combination of your two greatest forces that help make you, which are Morpheus and Smith. And he's like, but guess what? Your brain's hooked on all that Matrix, all that good stuff the Matrix had you on for a long, long time. So your odds of survival are very small. But guess what, Paris? Nothing a little kung fu can't fix. He goes, I know what you need, and they go to the dojo, cocktail in hand. I might add. He still has his martini when they go to the dojo, which I find funny. So they start getting it on there. He says, could this be the first day of the rest of your life? But if you want it, you got to fight for it. And he goes, no, I'm done fighting. And then just Morpheus beats Neo's ass into the floor. Neo, of course, spits blood in real life. Hey, do you remember when that happened in the first 10 movies? There it is. He says, they taught you good. Maybe you believe their world was all you deserve, but some part of you knew that was a lie. Some part of you remembered what was real. And then Neo catches one of his punches, and he's like, you don't know me. And there's a lot of editing in this scene. So if you were hoping that they just let the choreography play out in one shots like they did in the original Matrix, that'd be hard. Let's not do that.
Yeah,
Let's just
and
shoot this for
honestly,
coverage,
like
move
that
on.
that is such a disappointment because like these scenes in the first movie specifically were so good and so well thought out and engaging because they focused on martial arts. And
Yes.
with
Yeah.
this, it's like there's not only a lack of focus on the martial arts aspect of it, but this is one of the first moments in the movie for me where it's like, cool, it's going to be what you saw before, but we're doing it slightly differently. The slightly different take they had on this wasn't different enough and wasn't really interesting or compelling at all. So we're kind of just seeing a lesser than version of what had come before. And I think up until this point, when it's the one-to-one recreations, they always added an element that made it the intrigue that I keep talking about. But here, there was no intrigue. Here, it's like, okay, cool. We're just getting Neo back to where he was, question mark. Like, that's not as interesting.
Of course, as the fight progresses, Morpheus continues to hype him up and says, I know you because I know the only thing that matters to you. It's why you're here, why you're still fighting, and why you'll never give up. He says, this is your last chance. You got to fight for your goddamn life if you want to see Trinity again. Fight for her. And as he says that, Neo in real life grips the arm of his little dentist chair real hard and then summons all of his power and throws just a mighty Hadouken at Morpheus and blows the top off the whole joint. And it's actually kind of a cool moment. Bugs and Neo have a good scene about how the Matrix weaponizes everything that's important to us. Whether we're better to bury the truth inside something as ordinary as a video game. Is what she says to him. And he says, "You sound like the Oracle." And she goes, "Oh, well, just in case you were wondering, she's gone. She was gone before I was free. When the Matrix was re-uploaded, there was a purge." And he's like, "Oh, they promised us peace and gave us a purge." He goes, "No, there was actually peace. You changed everything." You changed a lot, actually, more than you know. So she takes him on a little tour of the bridge, introduces us and him to the crew. We get Sequoia, short for Seek, short for Sequoia, Lexi, Berg, and Elster. She also introduces the new Cynthians, Sibebe, Octacles, and the Decepticon from Transformers 1.
Oh my God, you're right. The one that turned into the boombox.
Yep.
I hate that you just brought that into my mind, Nick.
There it is right there.
Fuck.
Someone's like this. It's totally original. And the other guy was like, I don't know, man. I think I might have seen this one in a really old movie. And it's like, well, we're 16. It doesn't matter anymore. Remember that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back, Tim?
Oh, Nick, you're just driving it into my heart and my soul.
It turns out another cool concept here. Neo's presence in the Machine City that day that he went to go barter with them had a huge impact on the machine world. They want sentient light, so they become the Cynthians. They don't want to be called machines anymore. They want to be thought of as a new thing. That's the thing Neo changed the meaning of quote unquote our side. Who's on our side now? Which I was like, that's really cool. I hope the rest of the movie is about that. It's not. Morpheus takes a physical form via a really cool effect called the Exomorphous Particle Codex, or Exomorph for short, which gives the programs the access to real life worlds. Although how it does that is beyond me, because you would think you'd need some sort of emitter and signal emitter, and he can't go too far away from that. But it turns out once he's in the real world, he can just take off wherever the heck he wants to go and not have to be close to any of the ships whatsoever, which is kind of strange to me, but whatever. Maybe that's like a really, really strong Wi-Fi signal in these ships that can go like 10, 15 miles. Neo asks the other pod. He asked about the other pod housing Trinity, but the place is unlocked. And I'm like, listen, we're not going to lie. This place is really, really hard. Despite what happens in the third act, this place is really, really hard to get into. Okay, Sabebe can't even get in there anymore. She's persona non grata, or they're persona non grata. They approach the gates of what you think is Zion at first, but turns out is not Zion, and it's just like Batman, where they go through the wall. The wall's like, but it's fake. And like, oh, it was a hologram the whole time. They're like, yeah, we're still hiding from the machines. And Neo was like, why? Why are you hiding from the machines? Are you at war with the machines still? they're like, well, kind of, but not kind of. They're actually at war with themselves. It doesn't matter. This is not Zion. This is Io, which is just the hardest word to write because I always think it's just 10 or low. I can never remember that's an I. Unless I gotta pick a different font. But it's pretty much just Zion with a cool Las Vegas biosky, which is cool because it
I don't
works
know
like
if this is the scene or if it's later or earlier or wherever it is, but when they're talking about the machine civil war and we're
This
getting a
is
shot.
right.
they're
This, yeah.
about to get up to it
Yeah.
right now.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Well,
Yeah.
just real quick, one little like production, like or not production, but just a tidbit that I liked was the blue and red kind of firepower going back and forth, which is very Transformers, very Decepticon Autobot of like good guys, bad guys. I do
Right.
like that
Very
it's a
G.I.
little
Joe.
flipped on its head, where the bad guys are blue and the good guys are red, because the red pill, the blue pills are the people that want to be the machines and all that.
That's
So
cool. I like
thought that
that.
was kind of cool, but
Mhm.
I might be the only person in the world to care.
When they
Also,
land,
I
go
just,
ahead.
nothing does matter.
Okay. When they land, they're greeted by none other than General Niobe, still played by Jada Pinkett Smith, only with
I marked
lots
out.
and lots. I couldn't get past the bad makeup. I
Yeah.
gotta be honest with you.
Same.
It's
Same.
so bad. It's just so impossibly bad. And her walking around like an old person the entire time, I was just like, oh god, this is just
I
not
liked
working
it.
for me. It's
I
really
was
taking
like,
me
cool,
out of
this
this.
works. I also liked the whole like I didn't believe in the prophets, I believed in the man thing, and like how that tied into things later, and like it's cool.
Yeah, I don't
I,
know.
I still say that should have been Larry Fishburne.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
yo, Paris, you're right. Like honestly, that would have been way better, way cooler, especially if there was also Yaya still being in this movie, and
Right.
then
Right.
we see Larry Fishburne as Morpheus. Oh my god, that would have been incredible. That would have been so much cooler than what we got. I still did get that. Again, I'm a fucking sucker for nostalgia. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of things this movie tried to do and did even that like spoke to me in a way where I'm like, hey, look, I'm one of those dumb motherfuckers that just wants the shit that I'm looking for, and they gave
Sure.
it to me in certain ways.
Of course, Niobe is like, listen, Bugs is like, he's the one. She goes, I don't believe in the one. I never did. And Keanu responds by saying, no, but there was a time you trusted me with your ship, which is nice. She takes the mimosa away. I cannot say this word. Nemesine, I think. Nemesine is how you say the name of her ship, away from Bugs, and grounds the whole crew. Niobe tells Neo she doesn't want war. She just wants what everyone in San Francisco wants, silence. Niobe walks Neo around their botany lab, where they're doing all sorts of cool stuff with the aid of the DI and Synthients. I love this scene. I think there's a lot here, and I think it's super cool, especially the concept of they were like, here, try the strawberries. Like, where'd you guys get strawberries? I thought these were gone. And they're like, we reverse engineered the code from the Matrix to come up
So
with
cool.
the DNA strand
DNA.
Yeah.
to create a strawberry. I'm like, that's so cool. That is a really
Dude,
cool
yeah.
concept.
And again, it's not only cool as a concept, it's cool as a concept for the like kind of meta deep thinking stoner shit of the Matrix, where it's like, so really going back to what Paris keeps talking about, why don't we all just blue pill? Like if what you're seeking so desperately is the taste of strawberries, why don't you just go all in? Why
Yeah.
do this
Blue pill
fight?
it.
Why do all this other stuff? But I like that even in the real world, there's still like there's better things in there. Let's
Yeah.
take them. Like that's a cool concept.
Cool concept. She said, back in the day, we believed it was us or them. This city, of course, was built by us and them. The truce with the humans, of course, caused the scarcity in power, which made them go to war with each other, which gave rise to a new power, which I assume is the analyst and or whatever's running the Matrix now. She says nothing causes a war quite like scarcity, which is an interesting concept. Morpheus was elected. There's a statue of him, so I can only imagine he was elected God, but he couldn't see the forest for the trees with a new power rising, and I guess died as Zion was destroyed through the war. Do we know what happened to here? I rolled this part back and I was like, I don't know why he died or how he died, or why this war had anything to do with the humans at all.
Yeah, not. That's where it wasn't 100% clear, but it sounds like the humans got caught up in this civil war, and part of the casualty was Zion because Morpheus believed too much in everything that Neo fought for instead of doing what Niobe did and basically let's protect ourselves from all of this. That's how I took it, anyways.
Which means that it's not canon to the Matrix Online. Like
Right, because he's assassinated in the Matrix. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, then they should have just had him in here. God damn it.
Right. Niobe orders Neo put in confinement until they can figure out what's going on. And during the elevator ride up, Shepard, who is, in my opinion, the least fun character in this whole movie, geeks out about him. He tells him things aren't different now. Sometimes it feels like people gave up. And then he asks if Neo can still fly, and Neo nods, and it's great. I don't know. Morpheus trickles down a drain pipe.
Also, real quick, the whole like Morpheus not being able to get it up and fly thing, weird.
Oh, you mean Neo? You mean Neo?
Yeah.
Oh
Said
yeah, I'm
Morpheus.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
It's Neo not being able to.
Maybe Morpheus can't get it up either. I mean, that's what happened to him.
But like, what a silly thing to put in there. It's like, oh, until Trinity could fly, then he could fly, and it's like, all right.
Hey man, takes two to tango.
It was all worth it just for that, Nick.
Thanks. Morpheus trickles down a drain pipe, and I can't help but think that they need some sort of like this. How does these magnetic balls work? Anyway, they bust him out, and General Niobe is warned that Bugs stole back her ship, and they spot Trinity in the Matrix. But Bugs asks the tough question. She's like, what if she's happy there and she doesn't want to go? And Neo's like, well, what does her code look like? And she's like, well, it looked a lot like yours. And he's like, well, there's your answer. She's not happy. She's conflicted. But if I can't be what I was, and then he asks, what if I can't be what I once was? And then he says, then we're all fucked. And it's like, okay, well, there you go. Getting old sucks. They enter through a hotel mirror and take a portal over to an abandoned warehouse. Berg and Lexi have a conversation about Neo being old, which I'm sure mirrors a Reddit thread somewhere. And Smith shows up and tells Neo he can't let Neo take Trinity or alive, or the analyst won't let Smith go free. So he has to kill Neo right here and there. And he's brought some friends, Tim. The Exiles, led by none other than the Merovingian, who absolutely 100% should not have been in this film. And this scene is like a bad sequel to a Highlander movie. It's so terrible.
Yes. That's
It's
a great one. That's a great analogy.
God, it's bad. And the first character we see like literally hisses like as they walk by, and you're like, why did they do this?
I just don't get it. I think that's the problem, is like it gets so convoluted, and this starts feeling like 2 and 3 in terms of like sequels of like, yo, y'all just went a little too hard in the things that didn't matter. Like let's just throw random ass words like modal into this shit. And in the beginning of this movie, when they did that, I was like, okay, cool, you defined it enough, this makes sense. But by the time we get to the Merovingian and he is just here being a fucking psychopath, like he looks like the Train Man from 3, right?
Yeah.
But like, is that an illusion? Is that does that have any relevance or not? Because he also looks like Robin Williams in Jumanji.
Yes, he looks exactly like when he comes back from Jumanji.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. That he gave him nothing to do, and it's again another missed opportunity because the Merovingian being there not as an exile but as another character, his same character that one that got rewritten could have been cool. He could have been the boss, right?
Totally. There could have been a lot of cool things. Nick, I don't know if you were on headphones when I was talking about this, but I read the transcript of what he was actually saying during this fight. I don't need to repeat it. It's just like
insanity. Yeah.
It's just pure. It's the most kind of like, if you were to ask someone, what are the themes of this movie? Like, what is this movie about? And like but only tell me buzzwords.
Yeah.
And then someone told you the buzzwords. It's just, he's screaming those buzzwords as people fight.
This scene is unacceptably bad. And it's capped off, of course, with the fact that Neo blocks a punch and goes, I still know Kung Fu. And I think this actually might have been the spot where I paused this movie and came back and finished it the first time the next day. I was like, I don't think I could take any more of this. I got to stop. Anyway, Smith tackles Neo to the ground below and punches another support beam. It's like just like old times, except we need to edit the hell out of all these scenes to make it passable, since no one really wanted to take time to nail the choreography. Neo force stops a bunch of punches, and then Smith punches him through a support beam and tells him he's not what he used to be. We just keep hammering that fucking theme home. Then Smith does the multi-punch thing, but it doesn't matter. Music here sounds kind of like a bad horror movie. Smith tries to cave Neo's head in with a sink, and Neo uses his power bubble, aka what I call now the choreography workaround, to blast Smith into the Matrix 5. Neo heads to Trinity's bike shop, but she wants to pump the brakes because she had a dream that all of this would end in a chase and they would die, or it would end, and it's not good. Of course, the analyst interrupts the scene, and this whole thing is just bad. The visuals here are terrible. I don't like this effect of the slow-mo. It didn't need to happen. He could have just been walking around them as they're in slow-mo. It would have been a much cooler and cleaner effect. And I personally find this kind of nauseating. The analyst was there when Neo died. He had to convince the suits up top to rebuild him in Trinity, and they worked real hard. Why Trinity? I don't know, because they didn't know he needed Trinity at that point. But apparently, he had an inkling. Took him years to reactivate his source code, which I guess means his life. He was about to give up until he realized Trinity was the missing piece. Every simulation they ran where the two of them bonded, bad things happened. But he figured out if he keeps them just close enough to kind of torture them, the power output he would get for them would be ridiculous. And he's been setting records ever since. His predecessor, of course, the architect, was all about logic and efficiency. But the analyst figured out a better way to get more output is by manipulating people's feelings.
He was torturing everyone, right? Like he put that policy to everyone. Where just,
But I think he got a lot. Miserable. For some reason, Neo and Trinity were like the lock and key to this whole thing. He orders one of his bots to shoot a slow motion bullet at Trinity so we can really hammer the point home. He says the best part, people stay in their pods happier than a pig in shit. The key to all of this is you and her quietly yearning for what you don't have while dreading losing what you do have. For 99.9% of your race, that is the definition of reality. Desire and fear, baby. Just give the people what they want. Come home before, and he tells them, come home before something terrible happens. And he stops the bullet. And then they leave the Matrix. That's it. They're just like, okay. And they get an earful from
like,
Naomi.
okay.
Like, oh, they don't have to do anything. And then a big silver bird comes and takes them to a restaurant. The manager, who turned out the whole time was a grown-up Sati. Remember her father? That's right. He designed the resurrection pods where Neo and Trinity were imprisoned up in a place called the Anomalium. I think. Anomalium.
So this is just so complicated. And it's like, in 20 years, are we going to look back at this and be like, oh, this is good? And like there's going to be video essays or whatever those are in 20 years saying it's good? Because like, I'm just so lost where I'm like, I'm disinterested is more what it is than lost.
It's boring because this is what you would like. You're writing to barely keep ahead of the train as it's going. And that's instead of planning and writing something else, this is just like a lot of this smacked with like second draft territory where you needed about 4 more rewrites of this bad boy. Also, it's just, it doesn't matter. The analyst has halted a reset of the Matrix because he knows something. He knows that Matrix will return to his pod because he has a trump card there. It's Trinity's. It's Trinity. He can kill her. Now they have an opportunity. Bugs volunteers to go on this crazy mission, as do the other captains, and Naomi tells them all to knuckle up and good luck. Trinity is being held in the Anomalium. They hack a harvester. They're like, it's really hard to get in here. Who are we going to? No one has access to this thing. Well, why don't we hack a harvester and have the harvester take us in because they have access? It's really, really hard. Then Morpheus can dive through a shield and then go up the ambionic cord that used to feed Neo, and he'll go into his pod, and then he'll get in. And then once that happens, Bugs will just fly in with Sebebe. So just fly in.
God. Like, here's the thing.
I'm sure there was something in there I missed that like he turned off.
Why couldn't Sebebe, like, I thought she couldn't get back in.
Couldn't get back in.
Like, look, Reloaded and Revolutions were bad movies. We're not good movies, like, period, in my opinion. We are now 20 years later, give or take. The expectations are a lot more than they were then. And like we've already talked about it, those movies were rushed by design to create a universe very quickly and like do all that stuff. We're so much further than that this movie could have not happened. And that's why this stuff kind of gets really disappointing.
And that's the frustrating thing about it. It's like you basically had 2 decades of lessons learned, of fan reaction, of just commentary, looking at other films that you've done. There's so many variables that led up to this movie that you could have applied, and you just didn't.
I mean, let me take that a step further, Paris, like to put what your words into like a little bit more reality, like Star Wars, like this happened. We had Force Awakens, which was what this movie is semi-pretending to be for the first half, which is just, we're just going to give you exactly what you remember, but like modernized. We're not going to fuck it up. We're just going to do that thing. And then Last Jedi happened and was divisive, to say the least. And then Rise of Skywalker was just a fuck you to Last Jedi fans. And that's really all that it was. So what that did was it made a lot of people happy as like a, you know what, none of this fucking matters, fuck this. Or it made a lot of people upset, being like, this all sucks. But at the end of the day, no one's really happy. Like the people that were stoked on Rise of Skywalker didn't love it. I'm talking about at least the people on our team. They didn't love the movie. They just loved the fact that it said fuck you to the thing they didn't like. So where we're at with this movie is it's like you're acting like your commentary on Force Awakens, but at the end of the day, you're just Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities there. Then they go, hey, does Trinity have to take the red pill? Because Neo had to take the red pill. And they're like, no, Trinity's good. She didn't have to take the red pill.
Nah,
like,
it's fine. We're gonna hot like swap it. We're gonna hot swap it. So
we're
she'll
gonna
just be
transfer her
with us
consciousness
onto this laptop.
Another person, and the only person who can do that is Bugs, because we have to have something for her to do for the rest of this movie. Otherwise, she has literally nothing to do. The analyst, of course, is like, killed Sati's parents. He's got to have a reason for her to want to be doing this. And then Naomi's like, wait, you knew all this shit the whole time? Why didn't you tell me? And the only thing the screenwriter could think of to come up with was, she was like, oh, that might have been a mistake. My bad. I probably should have told you Neo was alive. My bad. If you're mad at that, I apologize. And it's like, oh, that so doesn't go a long enough way to explain that, but whatever. Again, we're just writing this bad boy as a train. The plane's already left the fucking station, if you know what I mean. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're like maybe a quarter of the way through this movie now. Lexi stops in to ask if.
No, we're like halfway. Maybe
No, we're at the end.
We're almost.
there it is. But it's
Lexi
so dumb.
I know. Lexi stops in to ask if she was wrong for believing in Trinity. And she says, what if we're too late? What if she's not Trinity anymore? And then Neo says, I never believed I was the one, but she did. She believed in me. It's my turn to believe in her. And that line hits. I love that line. Neo heads back into the Matrix to free Trinity while Sati operates on Trinity's body so she can transfer her consciousness to Bugs as a bypass. Why? I have no idea. I can't remember why they needed to do this, and I didn't bother to go back. I'm sure there was one line of exposition as to why they needed to do this. Neo walks back into Joe and the Juice and the Phi Die, and the analyst is waiting there for him with a team of agents, and says, "Hey, if she tells me," he says, "if she tells me she doesn't want to leave, you win. But if she wants me, then you'll let us go free." And he says, as an incentive, if you don't agree to this deal, my crew upstairs will just unplug me and you won't get anything. I'll just die. And he goes, all right, fine. Trinity comes in. They give him the space and tells Neo she saw this all. This is like, this was my dream. This is the thing I was talking about. And they sit down and they have a little chat. She says, there's a part of me that feels like I've been waiting my whole life for you. And that part of me is like, what the hell took you so long? And then fucking Chad and those kids come in. And they tell her, oh my God, you got to come with me. One of the kids broke their arm. And she looks at Neo and she says, it's too late. And he says, I understand. And Chad tries to walk out and he's like, come on, Tiffany, let's go. And the agents start to take Neo into control, about to shoot him in the head. And Trinity looks back and Chad just keeps on fucking hounding her, man. Just keeps on calling her Tiffany. And he grabs her arm and he goes, Tiffany.
He keeps
and she
calling her Tiffany.
And she looks at him and he goes, Tiffany, you have to come with us. Tiffany. And she looks at him. She goes, I wish you would fucking stop calling me that. My name is Trinity. And if you don't take your hands off me, I'm going to fuck you up right now. I can't remember what she said. You better take your hands off me, I think is what she says. And man, say what you will about the rest of this movie. Let me read this line the right way. I wish you would fucking stop calling me that. My name is Trinity, and you better take your hands off me. Worth the 2.5 hours.
I mean, come on.
Carrie-Anne Moss is a rock star. I mean, she kicks ass.
That one moment, I was like, that.
But again,
I
said this earlier. Trinity is the plot. Trinity is not a character in this movie, and that is what I really dislike about this. It's like it was all about this moment, and this moment feels more tied to Neo than it does to her actually doing anything or being anything in this movie. And Nick, you saying like, oh, it should have just been from her perspective from the beginning. Possibly, maybe that would have helped, at least for me, like what I took away from this. Was this moment as hype as fuck? Yeah, it was.
I mean, I just think it would have been interesting, right? To have her be like, the whole point of her journey then to be like, oh, they found me. I have to help free Neo because he's the one. But then at the end of the movie, she realizes she was the one, right? That was that real journey. I think that could have been cool. And I just like Carrie-Anne Moss. I would have loved to have seen more of her in this movie. I think she was wildly underutilized in this. But she just fucks Chad's shit up into next Tuesday, man, and calls for Neo, to which he responds, Trinity! And then everything explodes and everything starts going crazy, and the analyst freezes time again. And he goes, listen, I know I told you we had a deal, but I'm going back on that bad boy. I can't let you do that. But then Smith intervenes. For some reason, he's immune to this bad slow-mo effect. I wish I was. He punches the analyst in the face, sending him over the bar, and everything snaps back into chaotic slow-mo. Bugs gets jacked in from the bypass and fights with / as Trinity, and Trinity goes, ew, and the echo effect that the Instagram filter pops out. Then they unjack Trinity and transfer her consciousness with a cool effect. Anyway, freeing her mind for a moment. She feels she has like this weird cool glow and like punches like Neo, and it's like, oh, is she the one? That's pretty cool. Trinity and Neo fight the horde of agents back and finally embrace blasting everything into smithereens. Very powerful moment there. At least it would have been if the movie had been good. Smith shoots the analysts to pieces and then pieces out. And he's like, my journey here ends, my friend. He's like, wait, you don't need to kill me? You just need to kill that guy. Why don't you just kill the analyst the whole time? You have the power. You're literally, like, the analyst literally can't do anything to you. Why don't you just go to his house and kill him? He says, you know the difference between you and me, Tom? Anyone can be you, whereas I've always been everyone. And he shakes back into the barista, and the guy's like, what's happening right now? And he's like,
Really
oh,
good,
you
Nick.
did, out of it like this, you did all this. You killed all these people, man. Now get back there and make me a simu latte, Tim. Everyone on the planet is apparently a bot, and they all get activated. Shepard, as he walks out, again, proving he's the least interesting character in here, is like, oh, this is not good. And you're like, can you please just deliver that line a little bit more melancholy? Because that's how I'm feeling right now. I don't want to watch the rest of this movie, and you don't seem like you want to be in this anymore. He asks Neo if he can still fly, and Neo goes, hold on, I think I can. And then for a second, tries comically to do it, and then he goes, yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, honestly, it was maybe like 30 seconds ago, Nick, of you reading the plot that like was the moment for me that this movie just took a dive. Like a dive into, I actively don't like this. It went from I'm in, I'm actually kind of liking it, to I'm not really vibing with this, to here I am, I don't like this anymore.
Very bad. Trinity slides in and takes off with Neo on her Ducati, leaving the entire team behind, I guess. But they're fine because they get in a car. Trinity and Neo race down the streets of SF, and Neo does a force field a bunch of times, and it's cool. And then 19 times later, spoilers, not that cool anymore. Then the bots get activated and start throwing themselves out the window like the cars from another movie that shall not be named that was better than this.
Fate of the Furious, baby, let's go.
Somebody literally watched what they're like, you know what we should do? We should have that scene from Fate of the Furious. And then the other person was like, we're going to steal from a Fast and the Furious movie.
From the eighth one.
Is that how low we've got? This is the lowest we could possibly get at this point. Let's see. I know, dude. They hit the ground. I do like how the effect when they hit the ground and smash into like green gooey code. That was kind of cool. Everyone gets in trouble, so Bugs decides to jack in, and Seek's like, I can get you in, but I don't know if I can get you out. And I was like, we don't need that line. She goes in, and then they go over to the people that are being killed. The bots hoard Neo and Trinity into a kill zone. Thankfully, Neo has that cool force field generator's hands that he uses every 5 seconds. Lex and Bird get overrun. Thankfully, Bugs and Morpheus just kind of shoot the bots off their car. And that's it. That was the whole point of, that's literally like, I think the last time we see these two characters in this movie. Yeah. Anyway, Neo and Trinity head up to the top of the tall building, and let's see. And I think we're gonna get. Oh, they walk into the lobby, and I'm like, oh, cool. We're gonna get a cool lobby scene like that first lobby scene with them kicking ass. No, Neo just stops the bullets, and they walk into the elevator. That would be too hard. You could tell someone was like, that's gonna take at least another day to plan. We don't want to go on the wire work.
Yeah. No, and honestly, like that is such a choice. Like they did that. They knew they were playing with our expectations, and they literally just said, no, take this. Like the lobby scene, the Matrix lobby scene.
Iconic.
I have downloaded so many different videos off of Kazaa, and the Matrix lobby scene was probably the most acceptable one to watch with my parents. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I did it. I did that shit. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
The other ones were dirty. Neo and Trinity get to the roof, and a helicopter starts shooting at them. And we get that same shot that we had in the first movie where we see the shells dropping toward the camera from underneath the helicopter. And it was a cool shot in the first movie. You know what? Still a cool shot. Let's see. But of course, Neo, instead of doing anything fun, just kind of stops, like blocks the shells or the bullets with his force power. And then Neo, then the helicopter's like, well, he can block bullets, so I'll just shoot a missile at him. But then a second helicopter pops up, and as the second helicopter shoots the missile at him, and he takes it and diverts it to the first helicopter. And then I think it blew up the first helicopter so badly that the second helicopter was like, let's just stop for a second and go to Starbucks. Does that sound good to
Yeah.
everyone?
Mhm.
Because they leave for a good 5 minutes. And then Neo and Trinity wake up and they see a divine light in the sky as the sun comes up. And Neo says it's beautiful. Or Trinity says it's beautiful. I remember this. I remember us. And she and
I can't
Neo
believe they
embrace.
didn't show a flashback there.
Yeah,
Like,
you would have
these
thought
motherfuckers
when they
played with me. Like,
Mhm.
I swear to God, this entire thing is just Lana like fucking with everyone.
Yeah.
Because like the fact that they trained us this entire movie that anytime we reference something, you're gonna see a flashback, and then you don't hear. I was like, oh man, like y'all are trying to anger me now.
Trinity and Neo kiss, and it's everything. She says, "My dream ended here." And then agents start busting through the door down the staircase, and the clock starts ticking. And she says, "We can't go back now." And he says, She says, "We can't go back." And he says, "We won't." And Neo takes her hand, and together they decide to jump. And then Seek's like, "Can they make that jump?" And we're like, "Probably not." And they start.
Now, let me
Sure as
stop you
hell.
right there, Nick
Mhm.
Scarpino. According to star Keanu Reeves and anyone that was on Twitter before the pandemic, the spectacular tandem leap with Carrie Ann Moss from San Francisco's 44 Montgomery Street building was mostly accomplished without CGI
Forget
effects.
you. Get out of here.
Even though the building is officially 43 stories high, they had to
Fuck
climb a
that.
further 2 or 3 floors to reach the rooftop. The pair made the jump as many as 20 times over a 2-day period with body descender cables attached. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was so many Twitter clips of people literally just with their phones like shooting up
No, but that's
as we saw
amazing.
Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss jumping off a building.
That's unbelievable. I'm gonna look this up when we're done.
I already
But of
got it.
course,
I've got it.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Kev.
The fall goes short, and together they fall until Trinity. Both of them. That's insane.
Can you imagine?
I can't. No,
That
it's
trust.
terrifying.
And I mean, like, I hate even to say it, but there's nothing less cool than seeing Neo limp dick just being held up.
Limp dick.
You know what I mean? Like, holy shit.
I mean, it very much isn't. There's a lot of thematic level. It's like impotency here, for sure. But I like it only because I love Trinity, and I think like, hey, why not? I mean, that made sense to me that anyone could be the one, and Neo just believed that she was the one, so she gets to be the one. That's how it goes, right? But it was fucking weird. Anyway, it's only made weirder by the fact that he goes, "I'm not doing this. Are you doing this?" And she's like, "Fuck yeah, I'm doing this." And then apparently the second helicopter got done with Starbucks drive-through because it comes back. And then Trinity stares the helicopter down and says, "Bye," and they take off into the air. And they wake up in the real world and they give each other a little smoochy with their shaved head. And then we cut to Trinity flies over to see the analyst, and she just kicks his jaw off, and it's terrifying. She's like, "That was for using my
That
fucking
looks
kids."
so painful.
It was
Yeah.
crazy. She says they're gonna be making some changes from here on out, but he's not worried because at the end of the day, he knows that sheeple want to be controlled. And Trinity and Neo laugh at him and says, "We're not here to negotiate anything. We're on our way to remake your world, change a few things." But before we get started, we decided to stop by and thank you. You gave us something we could never have had before. Another shot. Then they fly away as we'll just say interesting cover.
Good word. Good word.
Of Rage Against the Machine. Wake Up is played by a band called Brass Against. And then Neo and Trinity together fly away toward the camera, similarly how Neo flew away in The Matrix 1. Tim, do you know who Brass Against is?
I unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, do not.
So my only touchstone for Brass Against was that their lead singer made headlines about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago for urinating on a fan during a concert.
Oh,
Holy
I heard
shit!
this. That's
I
them.
sent him that
is Brass
video.
Against.
Yeah.
That is Brass Against.
You know what? Put this movie #1, baby. Let's go. That changes everything.
Yes.
Wow.
And it's funny because I actually like that band. I just do not like this cover
Wait,
of their,
no.
their Wake Up. I like the cons. I mean, the band is all brass, like brass instruments. How am I not gonna like it, Kevin? Of course, you know.
That video was shocking though. Like I didn't
Of her
understand what
doing
was
the thing?
happening. Yeah,
She
pissing
looks
on a
like she had a
guy's
lot of water.
face.
Okay, yeah. Look, there's a lot that needs to be broken down here. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, if you want to, it is NSFW. Search for Brass Against. Look up this video that we're referring to. Yes, it involves someone pissing on a man's face. Having said all of that, I am blown away on so many meta levels. So this movie succeeded because I did not realize that woman that peed on that man's face was part of a brass band.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to tell me, Nick, that concert that they were at is a bunch of trumpets?
I watched the video that they did for Wake Up, and it's a whole brass section. They also have woodwinds, of course, not just brass.
They have woodwinds, of course.
But then they also have like a drummer, and then they have like some guitarists and stuff like that. But yeah, if you listen to the song again, it's mostly just like brass instruments and like
Wow.
It sounds like a high school marching band version of Wake Up. It's very.
You know what? I'm won over on that element, but not the rest of the end of this movie.
Yeah.
So there you go. There you go. Nick, great job. Thanks,
guys. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you.
Now we're gonna do a little thing I like to call Ragu Bagu. Da 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 da.
Ragu.
Da 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 da.
Bagu. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys for The Matrix. Man, I got so many that just say John Wick Ragu Bagu, and I just want to pull that bad boy up because I'd much rather be talking about that series soon. Very soon.
Delayed now over a year, so not soon at all.
Yeah. Number 1, we have Agent Smith and the Machines. Number 2, Agent Smith, the Merovingian and the Architect. And number 3, Agent Smith and Deus Machina. Where do we want to put the Analyst?
I think it's better than Agent Smith and the what was the second one?
Agent Smith, the Merovingian, and the Architect.
Yeah, I think it's better than the Architect. But that's because the Architect was a bad antagonist, in my opinion. Really bad. And the baby face was fucking weird.
I'm gonna go number 3. I think it's better than Revolutions. I think it's better than the many Agent Smiths and whatever they're trying to pull off there. Yeah. I do think I'd put it above the Merovingian because it was so underdeveloped and Reloaded. Like, it was such a cool idea and they kind of whiffed it. And the Architect is a similar thing where could have been cool, but like it really wasn't. Whereas with this, I liked elements of what they were building with the Analyst. I think none of them are good except for the first one.
Yeah.
So I would put this at number 3.
I think it should be. I think it should. I think that certain moments are acted better than the Merovingians' like overall failures as an antagonist. So I would put it as number 2.
I'll side with Tim on this one. I'll put it number 3 only because I love NPH and I can't stomach putting him dead last. Sorry, Paris. I see your perspective on it.
No,
but I just
I have to go dead last because ultimately, and I love him too, but he was just a parody, really. True. And when I think about the Merovingian, I was left wanting more of the Merovingian. And the Architect, reflecting back now, looking back at it now, he was just very analytical and logical, but what he was saying was kind of fascinating in a way. So yeah, Analyst dead last.
But you're saying, but now you're jumping from 2 to 4 here, Paris. Like, what's up with Smiths from Revolutions?
And Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, but you know what? I kind of liked him.
All right.
Yeah, there you go. I kind of like the baby face.
Either way, the ranking goes, Nick.
I'm sorry. The ranking goes number 1, Smith and the Machines. Number 2, the Merovingian, Agent Smith and the Architect. Number 3, the Analyst. Number 4, Agent Smith and the Babyface.
And now it's time for Haiku in Review. Nick, can you give me the theme song?
The Babyface. 7 syllables in the middle. You got 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, hey, no need to fret it. Haikus, they don't need to rhyme. Haiku in Review. Haiku in Review.
You can go to patreon.com/kindafunny to write your review in haiku form, just like Dan H did. I really liked it. Way better than 2 and 3. Matrix beat DK? Question mark.
DK.
I don't get it. Beat DK. What are we not getting here? Donkey Kong? Drift King? Dan H, please hit us up. Let us know what you're talking about. I don't think it's not making sense to me.
Is it a play on NPH somehow?
Maybe.
I don't know. I've never been this confused for my haiku. Jeremy Zuccarello says, it could have been
Zook?
worse. Felt like Lana was coerced. Rank it 2 of curse.
That was perfect. That came back around. I love that.
And Grant Burton says, they made it, but why? Time for the Matrix to die.
Yeah.
Now they can both fly? Did
Mm.
they even try? Why did they recast that guy? I like Bugs. Goodbye.
I like what's
There you
happening
go.
here.
There you go. Oh, and then Andrew Feisner. Neo can't take flight. Seemingly made out of spite. Just kind of I.
Seemingly man out of spite is great.
Now it is time to rank the Matrix cinematic universe. Currently, number 1 is The Matrix. Number 2 is The Matrix 2 Reloaded. Number 3 is The Matrix 3 Revolutions. Where do we rank The Matrix 4?
Dead last.
I want to. Okay, Paris went dead last. I'm going to put it out there. I want to say I feel like I would put it at number 3 because I think that Reloaded and this are equal in my book, but I would rather rewatch Reloaded for the fun. But I think that rewatching this movie, there's more to offer. And I think that there actually is more, even if I didn't love it all, I think that this movie did more than Reloaded or Revolutions did. And I got to give it credit for that. And I think that overall, it is a better story than 2 and 3. I just would rather watch 2. So I'm still going to give 2 the nod. So for me, this is number 3.
I think the big excuse that those movies have is they came right after. They didn't have any time in the oven.
Oh no, that's not true.
What?
Matrix 1 was 99. Matrix 2 and 3 were 2003.
All right. I mean,
a lot of time in the oven.
It's still yeah, but like the two of them go back to back. I don't know. This movie had a lot more time in the oven. They really could have made something special, and I think everyone feels like they like either Lana did it on purpose or everyone was phoning it in, you know. And I think for that reason, I also put it number 4.
I would also put this at number 4, only because I feel like there's only a couple of redeemable scenes in this, namely just Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, and everything else is either an interesting idea that never comes to fruition or just absolute downright bad and cringy. Whereas I think there was a lot of cringy stuff. Not to say there's not a lot of cringy stuff in 2 and 3 for sure, but at least I was mildly interested to see where those stories were going because it was the culmination of the original movie and like that trilogy, and I wanted to see how those played out. Let us never forget the kid. That is every bit as bad as anything that's bad in this movie. But this movie, I think, is just unwatchably boring, especially on a second watch. I'm like, I just don't ever want to watch this movie again. And after this review, I'd like to not think of this movie ever again.
Everything you said is why I say 4, but you just made me think of something which would have been Lana's ultimate middle finger to literally everyone.
Bring the kid back.
Yeah, it should instead of Niobe, it should have been the kid. It should have been the kid.
Oh my God! Thank God it wasn't. Thank God it wasn't.
It's just the kid, and then all of a sudden it cuts, and Jar Jar Binks comes out of the bathroom. You're like, wow, we're just bringing everyone back that we don't like her.
Fuck it, why not? That is the best way to end this in review. I love it so much. Paris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Kind of funny in review.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll have you back in the future at some point. I don't know for what franchise. I don't know what when.
Something better.
Well, I mean, Cobra Kai. Look, here's the thing. We already have a very, very crowded group for it. I'm going to tell you right now, Paris, if you're available next Monday at 3:15 p.m. to just hang out and talk, you're welcome. Joey's just gonna come to hang out.
Yeah, it's gonna be. You should come. It's gonna be fun.
All right, I'll look at the schedule
because we'll figure this out.
Because I can talk Cobra Kai all for the
we all can. It's gonna be a much different conversation than this. But anyways, Paris, where can people find you?
Find me right here at Kinda Funny. XCast, baby.
You gotta love it. Check out the XCast every single Saturday at 6 a.m. YouTube.com/KindaFunnyGames, and of course, podcast services. Until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.